Yeah, we can start. Sir.
सर नहीं आ गया.
Vishal, will start the meeting.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. So good evening, all the participants. I, on behalf of WRC ICI, welcome you all to this special course titled Refresher Course on Research Methodology and Data Analysis. I welcome you all, and I start our today's session with our ICI motto song.
य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति य एष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्द्वैता 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 एतद्द्वैता.
Now I request our chairman, sir, CA Manish Ji Gadia ji, to please address the participants and make a formal start for this course.
Thank you, Vishal, and the respected participants. As you all are aware that now UGC has permitted chartered and said that chartered accountant course is now equivalent to a postgraduate course equal to master degree. And after doing CA, a member can do a PhD and they are eligible. So there are various research methodology and which is required to be adopted if you are going for that PhD, which is a good course, I should say. And once you are going for teaching, it is very much needed that you should be a doctorate in any of the subject. And there are various subjects in which you can do a doctorate. So keeping that in mind, we have structured this course on research methodology and data analysis for research scholars, where various PhD faculties will come and guide and share their experience, how you can take this forward. And for structuring this program, Kapoor madam, who is there, has done a fantastic work. So really great work, Kapoor madam. And under your guidance, we are doing this course. So really great. I will not take much time because we want to learn. So over to you, Vishal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your kind words of introduction. Now I take this opportunity to welcome and also introduce our very learned first faculty for today's session, Dr. Saurabh Jayagraval. He is a graduate and a postgraduate engineer from IIT Kanpur and IIT Delhi. At present, he is associated with Department of Civil Engineering, HBTU Kanpur. He is a consultant to IBM and UNESCO for business analytics. He has published a paper on integrating alternate payment channels and was presented in the 4th International Conference on Payment Channels organized by BankNet India, Mumbai. His paper on strategic business decision for managers, an approach to ERP evaluation, was presented at Conference on Role of Decision Making in Management organized by IMT Nagpur. The paper was then published as a chapter in a book named Role of Management Science in Decision Making, which is published by Excel India Publishers, New Delhi. It is also used as a textbook. He has interest in data mining, data analysis, business analytics, structural equation modeling, multivariate analysis, and works on platforms like RSPSS, Amos, Clementine, IBM Watson Analytics. He has conducted international workshops, trainings for Saudi Aramco, biggest oil refinery in the world, Kiatnin Bank, Bangkok, KBM, Kuwait, Ministry of Road Transport, Abu Dhabi, and prominent domestic trainings are at AIMA, New Delhi, Symbiosis University, Pune, KJSIOM, Mumbai, VGSOM, IIT Kharagpur, Ernst & Young, Trivandrum. With this brief introduction of our very learned faculty, Dr. Saurabh Jayagraval, I welcome you, sir, and I please request you to take ahead our today's session. Welcome, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for that introduction. And thank you, Manish, sir, for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this exercise, and Kapoor ma'am for that extending the invitation. I'll try to with this information which Manish sir has said, that now it's the course is equivalent to a postgraduate course, and now most of you are now eligible to do a PhD program. So maybe you go into a teaching profile, or maybe you enhance your skills. So that is where that PhD program actually comes into picture. And with this PhD program, it's basically on the research skills of an individual. So how do you basically go about doing the research? That is what I'll discuss, right? And then any questions you have as far as how can you go about it, or what all can be done, right? All of you are absolutely, you feel free to put your questions. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. So I'll just share a small presentation which will take you to this area of what we call it as data analytics or data science, right? So basically, this is the new buzzword which is there, and that is what we call it as data science, data analytics, research methodology, right? There is some difference between the three, but more or less all the three are pointing towards the same thing. So it's the area of study which involves extracting insights from the vast amounts of data by the use of various scientific methods, algorithms, and processes. So as of now, we have lots of data getting collected. So that is the most important thing which is happening. And you have many ways of collecting the data. Like we ourselves don't know how people are collecting data through us, but then lots of data is getting generated. I'll just share with you. If you take an example of a call center, right? So a call center has roughly a minute of it has 1 terabyte of data which is going into it. So lots of data is getting generated in every area. You talk of engineering, you talk of management, you talk of accounts, you talk of medical sciences, right? There is lots of data getting generated. And this is the basic reason why this particular area has become so popular. The data collection, the ways to access, in fact, the way you are accessing internet, right? The rates are the cheapest in the world. That is what I can say, right? Delivering these workshops at a number of places outside India, at least I have understood this, the rates in India are the cheapest as far as accessing the net is concerned. Maybe the speeds are a little lower, right? But then the kind of speed we have, right, and kind of payments we do, they are the cheapest in the world. So with these two basic things happening at the background, right, lots of data getting generated, and we can access this data at a very low cost. That is what has given rise to something which we call it as the data science. And what we do using this data science is to uncover some kind of a pattern which is there in the data. That is what we are actually trying to do. The more you uncover the pattern, the better will be your decisions. The better will be your decisions. So whatever decision you take, I'll give you a number of examples, and you'll see that how it is getting applied. Anything which is happening in the environment, whatever is happening is because of some data science happening at the back end. So like most of you come from an accounting field, right? I'll try my best to relate myself with the accounting field, though I come from an engineering background. So suppose there are algorithms which help you to find out whether a new customer should be given a loan or not, whether a new customer should be given a credit card or not, right? So that there are no more frauds happening in the industry. That is where you can apply these concepts of data science, right? You can do a research, you can do a PhD just in trying to identify the potential customer, right? Who is the best customer who should be given a loan, or who is a customer who shouldn't be given a loan, or who may default on the loan, right? So that is where this data science basically comes in. The term data science has emerged because of the evaluation or the evolution of mathematical statistics, data analysis, and big data. So three things have happened. There's some concept of mathematical statistics, data analysis, and big data. I know all of you have a very strong mathematical background because there's a regional center at Kanpur where I come from, and I was delivering some programs there. So I'm very sure I have found that all of you have a very strong mathematical background. So that mathematical background all of you can use, right? And then on top of that mathematical background, right, is what we have, this data science. So data science is basically three things: mathematical statistics, how to analyze data, right? And naturally, the kind of big data which we have. Now, there are various ways also, right, in which we can actually analyze the data. So it's an interdisciplinary field. It's not limited to any particular field. It's an interdisciplinary field that allows you to extract knowledge from the structured or unstructured data. So the data is also basically of two types. One is a structured data and one is an unstructured data. The data which you get in a tabular form is basically a structured data, nicely into rows and columns. Or all of you must be working on Excel. The data which you get from an Excel sheet is basically a structured data, right? And then anything which you get data in a tabular form is a structured data. The data which you get from a PDF file, the data you get from the blogs, right? The data which you get from Twitter, right? They are all unstructured data. The data which you get from the call center, that is all unstructured data, right? So basically there are two kinds of data which are floating around. One is what beautifully into a tabular form, which is a structured data, which most of you are working actually on. But then you can also work on unstructured data and get some relevant information out of it. So data science enables you to translate a business problem into a research project and then translate it back into some kind of a practical application. So you can whenever you feel interested in doing a PhD, right? What you can do, you can take up a business problem which you encounter every day, and then you can convert it into a research project, right? And then you do some kind of a data analytics, and whatever you get from the research project, you can then apply it practically in your area of work also. So that is what, and naturally it's an interdisciplinary field. You don't have to be coming from a particular background to do this concept of data science. So that is the second important thing which we have, right? Now, these are the advantages of using a data analytics technology. Data is the new oil for the today's world. You forget about the physical oil, which we have been using in our vehicles, right? So data is the new oil for the today's world. And most of the people who have realized that this is the new oil, they have started using this data. With the right tool, technologies, algorithms, we can use data and convert it into a distinctive business advantage. So if you use the right tool, the right technology, the right algorithms, you will be able to convert this data into something which is of some advantage to your business. Data science can help you to detect fraud using advanced machine learning algorithms. So you will be able to detect fraud which can happen, and there can be multiple frauds in different areas. So the other important thing is it will help you to detect frauds. So you can do your research program on detection of frauds, right? Third is it helps you to prevent any significant monetary losses. So you can foresee, right, what can happen in the future, and that will prevent you from any significant monetary losses to happen. It allows you to build intelligence ability in the machines, right? So that the machines are getting more and more knowledgeable, and that is what we have this new area of artificial intelligence. There are two intelligence. The intelligence we all have is the human intelligence, and then we are trying to make these machines learn, and that is what all robots are actually doing, right? So it allows, this data science helps us to make the machines which are artificially intelligent. These are artificially intelligent. You can perform sentiment analysis to gauge the customer brand loyalty. So there's a very powerful thing you can do is to do some kind of a sentiment analysis, right? How are the people, what is the perception of the people towards a particular product? What is the perception of the people towards your service as a chartered accountant, right? And then see what comes out from the sentiment analysis. It enables you to take better and faster decisions, because everybody needs to take decisions, right? And the way the things are moving, you need to take decisions at a much faster rate, and that is where this data science will come into picture. It helps you to recommend the right product to the right customer to enhance your business, right? Whatever your business is, you must be having a number of products to offer. So you will be able to identify who is the right customer for the right product. That match should be there. And that is where this, again, data science can come into picture. The only thing I want to convey is all these things can be a part of your business proposal, which can get converted into some kind of a research proposal, some research which is useful. And I'll share with you one important statistics, right? Why? Because the research in the country is at the bottom low, right? There is something known as QS rankings, which recognizes every institution in the world. And the current QS rankings which have come up, we don't have a single institute in the top 300. Forget 100, 200, and 300. We don't have a single institute in the top 300. And just when I did my graduation and post-graduation from two of the most premier institutes 20 years back, they were all in the top 50. And the basic reason is the quality of research and the patents coming out from the research are extremely poor. So it's a high time that our institutes, be it technical institutes like IITs or management institutes like IIMs, right? They need to focus now on how to improve the quality of the research in the country, and then how to come out with some good patents, how to come out with some pay. And this is where this information on data science can be basically used. Now, these are the basic components which all of us will be imbibing when you work on a data science, right? You have the component of statistics, right? The statistical component in you working on mathematical models, right? Then you have the competency of how to visualize the data. आप data को कैसे visualize करते हो? The kind of data which we have collected, how do you visualize the data, right? Then you how do you modify the data? That is what is known as data cleaning. That is what is known as data cleaning. Like you get raw water, आपके घर में raw water आता है और आप पानी को साफ करते हो before you drink it. Similarly, the data which you get is a raw data, right? You do some kind of a data engineering to clean that data, because if your data is not clean, right, then you will not be able to get something out of the data. So that is what all data engineering is about. Then you should have your domain expertise. All of you are experts in your domain, right? So that part is already taken care of, that you have your domain expertise. And then advanced computing. Advanced computing means statistical algorithms, machine learning algorithms, deep learning algorithms, and finally all of them going into something which is known as artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence. So more and more systems are getting now more and more artificially intelligent. Like if you see this whole tax system, which I have seen, I have a little knowledge about this tax system. The way this tax system has changed in the country. Now the tax, whatever returns you get, right? That is more or less processed in maximum a month or so. This is because of there's some kind of a data science which is happening, data model which is happening at the back end. So I just remember within filing of my return, I got back the return right within 30 days, which used to took maybe 2 years or so, maybe 10 years back. So this is the reason is you have a model which is working at the back end now. There's a model which is working at the back end where these returns are processed very fast, where the returns are processed very fast. So you can also work on some kind of a model, and then you don't have too many frauds coming out from that particular place. So these are the basic components which we'll be working on as we move forward, right? Now, this is the data science process, which all of you will be following, right? The first is to discovery. Discovery means what is that you want to work on, right? What is your business proposal which has been converted into a research proposal? That is what is the discovery. Then what is the data which you have collected? Then the data which you already have, that will involve some kind of a data preparation. Data preparation means trying to convert it into a form which can be analyzed. The raw data may not be analyzed. So you'll have to convert it into a format in which the data can be analyzed. Then model planning. What are the different kinds of models which are available? Like you have a predictive model where you can predict something. You have a segmentation model where you can segment your customers, right? And then you have an associative model where you can associate the buying habits of the customer, the buying habits of the customer. So these are basically three models which you can have. One is a predictive model, one is a segmentation model, and one is an associative model. So you can select, do I want to work on a predictive model? Do I want to work on a segmentation model, or do I want to work on a associative model? These are three big umbrellas to work on. These are three broad umbrellas to work on. And that is where the model planning comes into picture. Then is once you have planned that I want to make a predictive model. I want to predict whether this customer, right, will continue with me or not. This customer will continue with me or not. You are trying to predict that, right? Then you go in for something which is known as model building. You try to build a model, and there are a number of algorithms which you can use to build a model. So the next step after model planning is the model building. And then once you have built the model, you put that model into operation. You build that model into operation and try to use that model for the prospective customers. And then you see how good is your model behaving. Is the model worth, or you need some kind of a refinement in the model? So this is the basic process which happens in a area of data science. You start with your discovery. Discovery means what is that you want to work on? What is the data which you have collected, right? Then you prepare your data, right? Make it usable. Then what kind of a model you are planning, right? So it could be, as I said, predictive model, segmentation model, or associative model, right? I'll give you one example. Predictive model means whether the customer will continue with you or not. What will be the sales of a particular product, right? Those are all predictive models, right? Segmentation models, like all of you use a app. You use an app for booking the cab like Ola. So you have 4 segments of car. You must have seen on that app: micro, mini, prime, and sedan. these are 4 clusters of vehicles, right? And depending upon which cluster you take, a particular make of car will come to you. That is what is known as clustering. That is what is known as clustering. So you can also cluster your customers and go in for a particular product for each of the clusters. Then you have some kind of an associative modeling. All of you go to Big Bazaar, right? And you must have seen the way the products are kept besides one another. So they are not put randomly. They are not put randomly, right? There is some kind of associative modeling which is happening at the back end. There is some kind of an associative modeling which is happening at the back end. And you will generally see, right, that maybe bread, butter, and eggs are stacked very near to each other because that is the buying habit of an individual. Generally, people who buy bread, they also buy a butter. So generally what will happen is both the products are kept besides one another. That is what is known as associative modeling, trying to find the association between the products. So you can apply that association modeling for people sending, people selling mutual funds. What kind of a mutual funds to be stacked together? So that is where you plan the model, right? Then once you plan the model, you naturally build the model, and then you put the model to be used and see how well is the model behaving. Do the model require some kind of a refinement, or can we move ahead using the model? So just these are the basic steps which you make or when you do your research, or you will be doing your research. Discovery steps involves acquiring data from all the identified internal and external sources. There are 2 kinds of data. One is a primary data and one is a secondary data. The primary data is the data which you collect from the individual by visiting him, right? You collect it yourself, either through Google Forms or physically, right? The secondary data, the data which is already there on the net. And you have a, like you want the data for the stock prices, bseindia.com. Similarly, you have github.com, kaggle.com. These are all the popular websites which has lots of data present on them. So you can download the data from them. Secondary data is getting more and more popular nowadays because lots of secondary data is available on the net. And there are so many fields. There's a popular website, cran.org, right? That website also gives you lots of data which is relevant to your area. So that is what, these are some of the websites from where you can get the data, right? Anybody interested to get the data, right? I'll refer some of the good places, some good web servers from where you will be able to access the data. Then you prepare the data, right? Look for the inconsistencies in the data. And this is now where some kind of a statistics comes into picture, like how to take care of missing values, the data which couldn't be collected, right? If the data format is not correct. So that this is where you require the data to be cleaned. You require the data to be cleaned. Maybe the data which you get directly from these web servers are not actually usable. So this is the process which you do as a part of data preparation. So just wanted to tell you, right, that whatever raw data you get is not directly used for analysis. You will have to go into preparing your data, looking into what is the kind of inconsistency which is there in the data. Then you naturally plan the model. You plan the model. And then you use a number of tools for analyzing this data. Like you have an open source like R, and an open source which is popular nowadays, which is Python. All of you must be using, I think, because all of you come from accounting background, so you must be using a very nascent form of it, which we call it as, suppose, an ERP solution like Tally. That is a very, very small nascent form of it, right? But on the top of it now, you will have to work on some more advanced tools like R, Python, Power BI, right? Data visualization using Tableau, right? These are all freely available on the net, right? All of you can download. All those who are interested, I will share the link from where you can download these tools for models. Then you naturally build the model. And as I said, there are techniques like association, classification, and clustering, right? These are the three basic techniques which you will be using as a part of your research work. And there is a concept of a training data set and a testing data set, right? So you build your model on the training data set and then see how consistent is the model on something which is known as the testing data set. So that is where the concept comes for training and testing. Then operationalize, that means you deliver the final model with the report, like you all of you give you a report, code, and the technical document. That is what is putting the model into operation, right? And then finally you communicate the key results which you got from your research. What are the key results which you got from your research? So these are the basic cycle. This is the basic cycle through which all of you will go if you plan to use data science for research, if you plan to use data science for your research. Now, since most of us are basically interested for research, but besides research, right, you have people going as a data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, statistician, data architect, data administration, business analyst, and a data or an analytics manager. These are the growing areas, right? People, these are the new key areas where people are finding themselves into. If you go into this profile of learning data science, research is one thing, and these are the other areas which are now keenly required as far as implementing the data science is concerned. So this is, I'll not go into these roles because I think these roles, because all of you are working professionals. So for you, the role is not more important because the role basically here is that we are using it as a researcher. So I'll not go into these rules. Now, these are the basic tools which people are using to analyze the data. One is R, Python, SAS, MATLAB, SQL, and Java. So you should be competent in one of these. Even if you are competent in one of these, right, you will be getting some benefit in your work. You will be getting some benefit in your work. So these are the basic tools which people are actually using, right, as far as the data analysis is concerned. Now, what are the basic applications, right, where you can use this concept of data science? One is naturally internet search. Google search uses data science technology to search a specific result within a fraction of a second. So all of you must be doing the Google search, right? This is where the data science technology is used. Then recommendation systems. All of you are using the recommendation systems. Whenever you search for a friend on a Facebook or for a video on a YouTube, it will give you also that this is also similar to what you are searching for. That is what is known as a recommendation system. So always you will find if you are searching for a particular thing, right, you will also get recommendations on, right, the thing which you searched. Maybe it is a video, maybe it is a friend, right? That is what is known as a recommendation system. Then image and speech recognition. All of you must be using Google where there is speech recognition, right? You can speak something and the Google Assistant will help you search that. That is what is known as image and speech recognition. Right? Speech recognition systems like Siri, Google Assistant, Alexa uses the technique of data science, right, and gives you some information on it. So just trying to tell you where all these things are used and all of us are using in the background. Gaming world, all the games people are using, right, they are all based on this data science technology. You must be comparing the prices of air tickets, prices of travel, prices of stay in the hotel, right? Online price comparison. This is also happening because of the data science. And you have very good websites like Price Runner, Junglee, Shopzilla, These are very popular websites where you can do some kind of a price comparison. Again, this price comparison is also happening because of some kind of a data science which is happening at the backend. So just trying to tell you this, all of us are using all these, but all this is all because of the data science technology which is happening at the backend. So the challenges are high variety of information and data is required for accurate analysis. You need to have good amount of data to do the analysis. Not adequate data science talent pool is available. As of now, we don't have a very good data science pool still available. Management does not provide financial support for the data science team. So that is also one of the challenges which we are facing. Unavailability of different access to data, right? We face problems in accessing the data, which most of the people point out. Data science results not effectively used by business decision makers. Still, people who are doing businesses, they fail to understand that what all data science can do for them. And that is why they are struggling in their business. Explaining data science to others is something very difficult. Then there are some privacy issues also when implementing this. Lack of significant domain expert. Many people are there who lack expertise in their domain. So as I said, you should have expertise in your domain so that you can use the data science in a good way. And if an organization is very small, they can't have a database service team. So you should have some kind of a small team to begin with who are actually working on the data. So I'm just trying to figure out that these are the challenges which this particular industry is facing as the data science is becoming more and more popular as we are moving basically forward. Now, what is basically, as a researcher, what can we do? This is just an introduction to this. Now, as a researcher, what can we do, right? So the area which we have is what we call it as statistical analysis. Now, this is in reference to as a researcher, right? Because data analysis is used in the industry, data analysis is used in the academics as a researcher. And there's a difference between it. If you are using it as a researcher, then it is generally called as statistical analysis. And if you are using it in the industry, that is where you call it as the data analysis. So statistical analysis is the process of collecting and analyzing samples of data. You collect a small sample of data. Like we had all this COVID vaccine in the country, right? So what we did was, I was a part of one of the research clinical trial. So we had small samples collected, and then this vaccine was given, and then the results were seen, right? And then only once the results were verified, right, then only the vaccine was given to the entire population of 130 crores. So the analysis is basically happening on a data, because you can collect a sample of data, but the collecting data from the entire population of 130 crores is very difficult. And whatever information you get from the sample of data should be applicable on the entire population. That is the key issue, right? So if you collect a sample of data for Mumbai, suppose, right, the data should be representative of the entire population of Mumbai. Then only whatever analysis you do will be meaningful. So that is what all statistical analysis is. You are trying to analyze a sample of data from the entire population, right? And your sample of data must be representative of the entire population. That is what statistical analysis is all about. And there is a small difference between statistical analysis and data analysis. If you are specifically doing it for research, अगर आप खाली research के लिए कर रहे हो, then it is statistical analysis. It is on a smaller sample of data. If you are doing this research for your business, for the industry, then it is data analysis, and where you have a bigger set of data. So that is what is a big data, right? So in data analysis, it is basically for the business, basically for the industry, and the sample size is huge. If you are doing it for your research, then it is basically a smaller sample of data, and that is what you call it as statistical analysis. तो आप प्लीज इसको भी डिफरेंशिएट करिएगा, when do you use the word statistical analysis and when do you use the word data analysis. बहुत सारे लोग हैं जो इन दोनों वर्ड्स को इंटरचेंजेबली यूज करते हैं, but they don't appreciate when to use statistical analysis and when to use data analysis. Statistical analysis is generally on a smaller sample of data, and data analysis is generally on a bigger data set, and you are trying to tell your results to people who actually don't understand statistics. So that is the difference between statistical analysis and data analysis. Now, once you start doing the analysis in your research, you start with descriptive analysis. जब आप अगर आप रिसर्च करोगे तो आप कहाँ से begin करोगे? Once you have the data, you start doing something which is known as descriptive analysis. And in descriptive analysis, शायद आप लोगों ने सुना होगा, these words come into picture like mean, median, mode. आप लोगों ने कहीं ना कहीं पढ़े होंगे ये words, mean, median, and mode, right? And they come in one bracket which is known as measure of central tendency. Measure of central tendency, right? मैं कुछ words use कर रहा हूँ, शायद you will be able to recollect what all mathematics all of you have learned. Measure of central tendency, mean, median, and mode. Then you have something, measure of dispersion. How is the data spread about? And that is where you must have heard the word standard deviation and variance. Standard deviation and variance. How much is the data spread from the mean? Right, that is standard deviation and variance. Then you must have heard measure of position. Measure of position, right? Like median. Suppose you say the median income in Mumbai is 1 lakh. That means out of all those people who are earning, 50% people earn less than 1 lakh and 50% earn more than 1 lakh. That is median. That is a measure of position. Then you have something like measure of distribution. Measure of distribution. How is the data basically distributed? The data which you have collected, right? And that is where we have the concept of normal data, histogram, right? You study what is the kind of data which you have collected. So जब आप अपनी research start करोगे, the first thing you will do is to do a descriptive analysis, right? Trying to tell what is the kind of data which you have collected. I'm just trying to tell this is from where you will all make a beginning. और जब आप beginning करोगे तो चार चीजें, there are 4 things which will come up. Measure of central tendency, mean, median, and mode. Most of the people don't appreciate the difference between mean and median, right? Most of the people don't appreciate between a variable like income and a variable like maybe the gender, right? Gender is what we say, a person is a male or a female is a categorical variable. And income is something like a continuous variable. Something like a continuous variable, right? You'll have to differentiate between you must have studied there's something like a real number and an integer. You must appreciate the difference when you write 1 and 1.0. There's a big difference between writing something as 1, 2, 3 and another person writing the same thing as a 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. For most of the people, it is the same. But statistically, there's a difference between when you write it as 1, 2, 3 and when you write it as 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. आप लोग Excel में भी करते होगे, right? But you need to appreciate statistically the difference between 1, 2, 3, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. 1, 2, 3 is discrete. There is nothing between 1 and 2. But when at the moment you say 1.0, 2.0, that means it is continuous. It is continuous. So we need to appreciate the difference between writing some number as discrete and writing some number as continuous. For a number which is discrete, you have the median. You don't have a mean for a discrete. For a number like continuous, you have something like the concept of a mean. So what I'm trying to say, the way you interpret the data, similarly, the statistics will also follow. Similarly, the statistics will also follow. And this is what most of the people don't appreciate. They don't know whether should I write it as 1, 2, 3 or should I write it as 1.0 or 2.0. Most of the people don't know, right? But then that is why you have the concept of discrete numbers and continuous numbers. So we'll have to begin with something which we call it as the descriptive statistics. और यहाँ पर our focus will be on how well you put your variables, right? Next, after descriptive statistics is what we have the inferential statistics. What do you infer of the population from the sample? Simple. What is your inference about the population from the sample? That is what is inferential statistics. As I said, collecting the data for the entire population of Mumbai, next to impossible. So you'll have to do something on a sample of data. What is your inference about the population from the sample? Right? I did a clinical trial on a sample of data, and then we decided whether the vaccine can be given to the entire population or not. That is what is inferential statistics. So in a research, you begin with a descriptive statistics, then you begin with something which is known as inferential statistics. And then we'll see what are the different tools to do descriptive statistics, what are the different tools to do inferential statistics. Then after inferential statistics, the next part, which generally a research focuses on, the first one is a descriptive, second one is an inferential, the third one is a very big domain of predictive analysis, where in your research proposal, you are trying to do some kind of a prediction. And the predictions are basically of two types. One, a continuous prediction like the income of an individual, and a prediction like classification, whether a student will be admitted to the CA course or not, whether a student will pass the CA course or not, right? Whether a customer should be given a credit card or not, right? Whether a customer will prefer vanilla to strawberry, right? Because that is the way the marketing campaign is held. Whether a person should be given a loan or not. That is what is a prediction, and that comes under classification. Classification. You are trying to classify a customer into a good customer or a bad customer. Most of the people used to wait whether this customer will come out to be good or not. Those days are over. Now we have algorithms which can easily find out whether a customer can be given a loan or not. This happened sometimes in 2007 if you read back, right? And that started when too many NPA cases happened. That is where people started thinking that this kind of a model should be in place, right? Now things are in much better shape, right? It's not an individual taking a decision, right? It is this algorithm which takes the decision that whether a customer can come out to be good or bad. That is what all predictive analytics is all about. It's a very big domain, and there are people who are working day and night on these predictive analytics, trying to identify the fraud in any area, before the fraud happens. So you can make your research paper on a technique which involves some kind of a predictive analytics. The next part of the research can be something which we call it as the prescriptive analytics, right? Prescriptive analytics. I hope you understand the difference between prediction and prescription. You go to a doctor, the doctor will not give you a prediction. The doctor will give you a prescription. See, this is the medicine you take. So prescription is a boiled down version of prediction, right? And giving a prescription is the experience which the doctor has, right? So his experience put into your prescription. So it's a very complex event. And that is where the techniques of machine learning and simulation comes into picture. So you can make your research proposal on incorporating something which is known as prescriptive analytics, right? Trying to answer a very specific question, what should be done next? If this is the problem in the business, what should be done next? So there is a very specific question to answer, right? When you answer a question like this, right, you go to a doctor, so this is the problem which I have. And the doctor says, okay, this is what should be done next. That is a prescription. That is what we call it as prescriptive analytics. Trying to answer a very specific question, which we call it as what should be done next. So many people who once work on predictive analytics, they then give a very particular answer which comes under the domain of prescriptive analytics. So I want all of you, right, you make a research proposal which has the component of both predictive and prescriptive, right? And simulate your research problem so that the businesses get advantage out of it, because that is what is lacking actually. Yeah, your research proposal should be such that people in that particular business get some benefit out of it. So the next one which we can do is the prescriptive analytics. Next is exploratory data analysis. You are trying to explore the data which you have all collected. And this is where you look for missing values in the data which you have collected, and people have not responded to lot many questions. बहुत से लोग होंगे who will not tell their income. There are many people who will not tell their age, right? And these are some of the variables which are required to make the model. So these are something which is known as missing values. How do you incorporate the missing values, right? So that is what is checking of the missing values in the data. Then checking for outliers, right? I don't want a data which has very high incomes or very low incomes of the people. No, I don't want it. I want a data where most of the income is basically it is very close to the mean of the income. That is the kind of data I want, right? I don't want the data for all the bright students in the class and all the weak students in the class. That data will not be useful for me, because statistically, most of the data should be concentrated close to the mean marks of the students. 70% of the data as a thumb rule. 70% of the data should be concentrated about the mean. That is what is supposed to be, or that is what is considered to be data of a good quality. A data of a good quality. So we can work on something which is known as the exploratory data analysis. Then causal analysis, right? Cause and effect relationship, right? Price goes up, demand goes down. That is a cause and effect relationship, right? So that is another area to work on. And statistically, that is what is known as a correlation. ये कुछ बेसिक चीजें हैं जो आप अपने रिसर्च प्रपोजल में इनकॉर्पोरेट कर सकते हो. You can work on exploratory data, you can work on causal, you can work on prescriptive, you can work on predictive, you can work on inferential, and you can work on descriptive statistics. I wanted to keep it simple so that this is the way you can start your research proposal from. Now, to do all this, you require some kind of a tool. I'll just show you some of the tools which we use, right? Now, this is one popular tool which we use for analyzing the data, and you must have heard of, this is what is known as R. जो आप मेरे screen पे देख रहे हो. This is an R tool, right? I'll also share the link from where you can download this tool. This is an open source tool which everybody can use. It is not a licensed tool. You don't need to have a license to use this tool, right? And if you do your research, you can use this tool. So I'll show you this website, right? If on your browser, you just type download R. I'll share this link also with all of you. So if you type download R, right? So this is the link. You just click on this and you'll get an access to download R 4.1.0, right? From here, you can download this particular tool. This is the fantastic tool which people are using to analyze their data in research. It is absolutely free, right? It is absolutely an open source tool which all of us can use. Now, once you download this file, it will take hardly 5 minutes to download it, and it will take hardly 2 minutes to install it. Now, once you install it, this is the screen, right? ये आपको screen basically दिखाई देगी once you open this particular tool. This is the screen which you will get. So this is one tool which all of us can use. The second tool is, which we call it as Python. The second tool which is equivalent to this, I'm just trying to show you, that is the second tool which is prevalent. Now to download this also, this is also free of cost. You can just write download and the name is Anaconda. Name is Anaconda, right? Now this is, if you click on this is the website from which you can download this particular tool, science toolkit, which is Anaconda. और आप मेरे राइट साइड को स्क्रीन में देख रहे होगे, एक ऑप्शन आ रहा है डाउनलोड. इसको भी आप डाउनलोड कर सकते हो and you can install it. If you install this particular tool, this is the opening screen which all of you will get, the one which you see on my screen. So this is what is known as Jupyter Notebook. And to use this, the backend is a language which is known as a statistical language, which is known as Python. I'm just trying to tell you, both are absolutely free. Both are open source codes, right? You can use either one of them. So one is, एक तो ये है जिसको मैंने पहले दिखाया, this is R, right? And the second, which is common in the industry for among the research scholars, is what we call it as Jupyter Notebook, which uses the language of Python, which uses the statistical language Python. तो आप दोनों में से कोई भी यूज कर सकते हो. मैं चैट विंडो में I'll put the link to download each one of them, right? All those who feel interested, right, they can download any of these tools, right? So one is for the first link is for the R. The first link is for the R, and the second link is for the Anaconda. The second link is for the Anaconda. So मैंने just ये link आपको इसलिए दे दिए है because you don't have tough time downloading something which is not required. So these are the two links to download. The first one is for R and the second one is for Python. Now I'll just also give you a glimpse of कि कैसे हम इसको use करते हैं. How simple is it to use it? This is what is basically R. This is what is basically R. Right. Now, this is one external data set which I have. This is one external data set which I have. All of you must be using Excel. आप लोग सब लोग कुछ ना कुछ mathematical computation में Excel को use करते होंगे. That is why I have also taken a data set, right, which is coming from Excel, right? और ये आप data set अगर देखोगे, this data set is into very nicely rows and columns. These are basically your columns and these are basically your rows, right? This is a tabular data. This is a tabular data, right? Now, suppose this is the data of the students who are involved or who are enrolled for doing CA. Suppose this is the data for all the students who are enrolled for doing, suppose, the course in Chartered Accountancy, just to relate with all of you. So I have the ID of the student, I have the gender of the student, I have the race from which he is coming from, the socioeconomic status of that student, the kind of school he attended before joining this course, the kind of program he is doing. So the course, the CA Institute must be offering a number of programs. So which program he is offering. And then before joining this program, what is his basic competencies, right? As far as reading skills are concerned, writing skills are concerned, science, maths, and social science. Now I can use this data for lots of information. I can use this data and suggest whether the student should take a course in CA or not. That also we can do. Help them, right? Whether he's suitable to clear the course in CA or not. Because I have his competencies in some of the basic skills which a student should have. And maybe some of the other skills also. So I can help him, right? All of you can do a research and make a model in which any students who is interested to do, you can ask the credentials, and based on his credentials, the CA Institute can suggest whether this person would be able to clear or whether this person is eligible to do the course or not. That is one thing you can do. Now, this is a data set which is there in your Excel file, which all of you must be working on, right? और इसी तरीके के और भी बहुत सारे formats हैं which you can import the data set into this particular R, right? सबसे पहला step क्या है? We need to import this data set into R. So the easiest way is you make the data set in Excel. You make the data set in Excel, right? आप लोग सब लोग Excel use करना जानते हो, तो आपको data set को feed करने में कोई भी problem नहीं होगी. Now I'll just write a line of code to tell you how easy it is to work on this data set, right? How easy it is, right? You just need to learn a few lines of code and you can start doing your research. So I'll be importing this data set from an Excel file into my R. The way you do it in R, similarly, you can do it in Python also. Either of the two language, whichever you think is convenient, right? And shifting from one language to another, not a problem. Absolutely not a problem. So I'll just write a line of code, right? A single line of code, right? So I say, suppose data ICAI. I'm using this data from the CA Institute, right? So I make some kind of an object, data ICAI, and then say less than dash, right? And then say read.csv, right? You can always copy paste and put this somewhere, right? You don't need to remember all this, right? And then you can specify the path, right, where your Excel file is. So my file is in my D drive. So d:/, right? My file is suppose named as hsb2.csv, inverted commas, close, comma, right? And then header is equal to true. Simple. You just need to write this, right? And if you don't remember it, you can copy paste it and keep it somewhere, right? And just press enter. The moment you press enter, again that greater than sign will come, indicating that the file has been imported into R for any kind of a analysis, right? Just trying to show you how simple it is to work on an open source tool, right? Like R or maybe Python. Now, if you want to see the first few rows, then you can say head of data ICAI, right? And then say enter. Now, this is the same few rows which you had in the Excel file, right? And these are first 6 students whose data is visible on your screen, the data which is visible on your screen, right? So this way, आप एक छोटे से कमांड से डेटा को इंपोर्ट कर सकते हो. डेटा को इंपोर्ट करके you can see, right, what is the variables. These are all the variables on which you have collected the data as a part of your research, and the now small statistics actually come into picture. There are basically 2 kinds of variables on which you collect data. 2 kinds of variables. हमारे पास 2 kinds of variables होते हैं जिन पे हम data collect करते हैं. One is a numeric variable. And the second one is a categorical variable. Right. Numeric variable का example क्या है? Numeric variable is like marks. How many marks did you get? Is a numeric variable, right? Then categorical variable का example क्या हो सकता है? Like what is the gender, right? Student का gender क्या है? That can be an example of a categorical variable. अब आप numeric variable को basically measure कैसे करते हो? Right. So there are 2 scales to measure a numeric variable. One is a ratio scale and one is a interval scale. मैं दोनों के example आपको देता हूँ. Marks is a ratio scale. Why? Because you say a student getting 80 marks has done twice better compared to a student getting 40 marks. The measurement is on a ratio scale. But please don't say if today the temperature in Mumbai is suppose 30 degrees, then it is twice hotter to maybe yesterday when it was only 15 degrees. Don't say that, right? Don't say adugni garmi hai, right? Why? Because a variable like temperature, right? A variable like temperature is on an interval scale. The only thing I know is the difference between 22 and 23 degrees is the same as 23 and 24. 23 and 24. The difference between 24 and 25 is same as 25 and 26. But please don't say 30 degrees centigrade is twice hotter to 15 degrees centigrade. Right? Why? Because you are a variable like temperature is always measured on an interval scale. It is always measured on an interval scale. So that kind of a conclusion I cannot make. That kind of a conclusion I cannot make. Right? I'm just trying to tell these are very common mistakes which most of the people commit when they undergo a research. And that is why the quality of the research is extremely poor. Because पहले लेवल पे वो वेरिएबल्स को ही नहीं आइडेंटिफाई कर पा रहे हैं कि उन वेरिएबल्स को मैंने किस स्केल के ऊपर मेजर करा. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम. सो you have to be cautious. If the variable is numeric, then is it measured on a ratio scale like marks, or is it measured on an interval scale like temperature? Like temperature. अगर आपको ये कहना है कि 30 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड is twice hotter than 15 degree centigrade, then you convert this temperature from centigrade to Kelvin. एक जैसे सेंटीग्रेड होता है वैसे फ़ारेनहाइट होता है वैसे केल्विन होता है. अगर आप टेम्परेचर को केल्विन में कन्वर्ट कर सकते हो, then it will get converted from an interval scale to a ratio scale, and then you can say so much Kelvin is twice compared to so much Kelvin. 30 degrees Kelvin is twice compared to 15 degrees Kelvin. That is what you can say, but you cannot say it on a centigrade. You cannot say it on a centigrade. You cannot say it on a Fahrenheit. Then whether you were categorical variable, again, you need to specify how is the variable measured. So there are two ways you do it. One is nominal and one is ordinal. Nominal is like gender, male, female. I'm not saying male is better than female or female is better than male. Ordinal, like if I say rate the mobile operators in Mumbai. So one of you say Jio is better than Voda. Voda is better than Airtel, right? That is ordinal. Ordinal means I know who is better than whom. Who is better than whom. So your variable must be measured on an ordinal scale. Your variable should be measured on an ordinal scale, right? But what is that? I don't know. How much is Jio better than Voda? And how much is Voda better than Airtel? That information is not there if you measure a variable on an ordinal scale. So jitne bhi variables aap, all the variables which you have on this Excel file, right? All the variables which you have on this Excel file, you should see what is the measurement of the variable, right? Is it numeric or is it categorical first? So read, write, math, science, social science, they are all what? They are all numeric. And variables like gender, race, socioeconomic status, the kind of school, and the kind of program he is doing in the CA Institute, they are all categorical. So the first thing you do when you have a research problem is to identify the variables, and then which variable is of what? Is the variable numeric or is the variable categorical? That is the next thing which all of you should identify. And once you have identified, then you identify how have I measured. Agar wo variable numeric hai, they are all on a ratio scale, right? Or they are on an interval scale. And if the variable is categorical, then is it nominal or ordinal, right? Suppose he is doing a diploma program in CA, or he is doing a normal CA program, which is now equivalent to postgraduate. So naturally, postgraduate program is bigger than a diploma program, right? So program will become a variable which is measured on an ordinal scale. And a variable like gender, which a student can be male or a female, will continue to be a variable which is measured on a nominal scale. अगर आपका ये आइडेंटिफिकेशन हर एक वेरिएबल का गलत हो गया तो आपकी पूरी रिसर्च विल गो इन एब्सोल्युटली अ वेवर्ड डायरेक्शन. So the foundation of your research is two. One is identifying the variables in your research, and then what is the nature of the variables which you have. Is the variable numeric or is the variable categorical? If the variable is numeric, have I measured it on a ratio scale or an interval scale? And if the variable is categorical, is the variable measured on a nominal scale or an ordinal scale? This exercise has to be done by the person doing the research. Nobody else can do it for him. The reason is he knows the nature of the variable. he knows the nature of the variable. मैं ये चीज इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि जब मैं अपने एरिया के रिसर्च पेपर्स को रिव्यू करता हूँ, then this is the biggest problem which I see. People not trying to identify, is the variable numeric or is the variable categorical? And if the variable is numeric, is it on interval or is it on ratio? And if the variable is categorical, is the variable nominal or ordinal? If you can do justice to this much, then at least the beginning of the research will go in the right direction. And this is the basic problem in most of the research papers. Like some of the good journals like Web of Science, Scopus, right? If you do not do justice to your variables, you cannot get your research paper published in either of these journals. It's very difficult to get, right? So you need to emphasize the nature of the variable. Now, once you have done that, this is the way you get it. Now you have to see what is the nature of the variable once you have imported into R. आपका variable कैसा है जो आपने R के अंदर import किया है. So for that, again, there is a wonderful function. These are all functions. So you write str structure and then data ICAI. Now this will show you the nature of the variables which you have imported. Simple. और आप देखो सबके सामने इतना मैथमेटिक्स आप लोग सब लोग यूज करते हो, right? It shows int. Int is an integer. Int is an integer, right? I hope you understand the difference between integer and a real number. The difference between 1 and 1.0, right? So agar number is not having a decimal, it is an integer. और अगर int की जगह यहाँ पे num लिख के आए, num means numeric. Numeric means the number has some decimals. The number has some decimals. तो मैथ्स में दो प्रकार के नंबर होते हैं, discrete and continuous. You have a different set of statistics for integer and you have a different set of statistics for a real number. So in R, if you use R, if a number is without decimals, it will come as int or integer. And if the number has any decimals, it will come as num or numeric. तो हमको सबसे पहले ये देखना चाहिए कि जो डेटा मेरा इंपोर्ट होकर के आया है उसका सिचुएशन क्या है. Does it require some modification or can I go ahead using this variable in the format in which it is imported? It is imported. Now, if you see, this gender continues to be an integer. Integer मतलब numeric, but actually gender is categorical. Gender is categorical. जब हमने यहाँ डेटा फीड करा है, then I mean 0 is a boy and 1 is a girl. So I need to convert so that 0 looks like a boy and 1 looks like a girl. So that is the next thing I should do over here to convert this variable from an integer to a categorical. और यही बहुत से लोग नहीं करते हैं, because they don't appreciate the difference between an variable which is numeric and which is categorical. Something similar, most of the people don't appreciate, वो सोचते भी नहीं है कि हम 1 लिखें कि 1.0 लिखें, right? Which is what is statistics all about. Small difference between mathematics and statistics, right? Mathematics is on the entire population. Statistics is on a sample of population. And you are trying to infer something about the population from the sample, because it is very difficult to get the data for the entire population. You cannot do anything, right? Because getting the data for the entire population is hell of a task. So ये difference है when you say I am working on mathematics and when you say I am working on data science which involves some statistical work. So ये आपको, the next thing which we need to do is to convert this variable gender into categorical, right? I'll just again write a line of code and I'll show you how this variable gender gets converted into integer. So just give you a small feel of how people use this particular tool simply, right, to begin with. So I just say data ICAI, and then to access this variable gender, I say $gender. राइट? जैसे आप लोग डॉलर का साइन एक्सेल में यूज करते हो, राइट? You have two referencing in Excel, relative and absolute. So whenever you want an absolute referencing, you use a dollar sign in Excel. Similarly, you can use a dollar sign to access a variable in R. So R में work करना is very convenient because it has lot of similarities with all those people who are already working on Excel. You will find so many similarities, and it will be easy, right, to imbibe working on R. And then you write something like factor. Simple. Factor means please convert it into categorical. Please convert it into categorical. Then you write which is the variable you want. So I say data ICAI dollar gender, comma. Then I need to tell what are the two levels in my data, which is 0 and 1. So levels is equal to C, then 0, 1. 0, 1. There are two levels, 0, 1. And then finally, what is 0 and what is 1? So labels is equal to C, right? 0 is a boy, comma, 1 is a girl. 1 is a girl. So I put an inverted commas, close the bracket, close the bracket. Simple. अब इसको मैंने करा क्यों? Because when I imported the file, this variable came as a numeric, and I need to convert this variable from a numeric to categorical, right? And I just press an enter, right? Now can you see, if there is no mistake, that greater than sign will come again, right? And if you recheck now, how does the gender look like? So str data ICAI, right? Str data ICAI, right? So I just put a T over here. Now can you see, this variable is converted into a categorical. और जब भी ये categorical में convert होगा, this will look like a factor. Simple, right? तो इस way से I have converted a variable which was initially imported as numeric into categorical. ये बस कुछ ही basic steps हैं, right? Which you need to do on the raw data, right? Because this is the way your data was imported into R. Now simple, I can start doing the descriptive statistics. बहुत simple है. अगर मुझको I want to get the mean of the score in maths for all the students. Simple. So what will I write? Mean, right? And then MEAN is the function. आपको कुछ नहीं करना है. Mean data ICAI dollar and the variable is math, MATH, bracket close and enter, right? So you write the variable mean data ICAI dollar math. So ICAI dollar math. Now can you see, you get the mean value. इसका मतलब क्या है? This is the mean of the students or the sample which you have collected. अब मुझे ये भी चेक करना है, क्या ये mean will be for all the students enrolled in the CA Institute. This is for the sample, right? Now I need to check statistically. Will this be the mean for all the students enrolled in ICAI? Because that is a big population, right? Maybe I don't have the data for all the students, right? That is what needs to be checked statistically. Now, जैसे हमने mean निकाला, right? I can find out the second important thing, right? आप लोग सब लोग Excel में भी निकालते होंगे, right? Then this is median, right? Now this is the median. Now can you see the difference between mean and median? People don't appreciate the difference between mean and median, right? You should appreciate, right? What is mean trying to tell you? What is median trying to tell you? This is the way you can convert whatever you get into something which is useful as far as your business proposal is concerned. अगर mean और median में फर्क है, what it is trying to tell you? What is it trying to tell you? That is what you should know, right? So this is mean and median. Most of us don't know what is the difference between mean and average. बहुत से लोगों को नहीं पता, right? Mean कब कहलाता है और average कब कहलाता है? 99.9% say mean is the same as average, right? But there is a difference, right? When do you write the word average and when do you write the word mean? Mean is for a sample and average is for the population, right? If you say the average of the average income in Mumbai is so and so, that means you have calculated it from all the people earning in Mumbai. You have not left out any single person in Mumbai, right? So don't write the average because I don't think it's possible to get the data for everybody earning in Mumbai. And that is where it's better that you write it as this is the mean income of people in Mumbai. So there's a difference between how you use these words. So एक word हो गया आपका mean और एक word हो गया आपका median. और आप देख रहे हो बिल्कुल simple. You just write the function and it will start giving you answers to all these. Right? The only thing which we need to do as a research scholar is to interpret these values of mean and median. इस tool को use करने का फायदा ही यही है कि आपको manual calculations नहीं करना. All the manual calculations are finished now. Right? Just like you use a calculator or a mobile phone, right? Similarly, you can do any statistical calculation on this tool, right? It's almost over that you use a calculator or anything like that. The only thing as a research scholar you need to understand is how well you appreciate the interpretation of all these statistics. That is what will be useful as far as your business is concerned, whatever business you are doing, right? How well you appreciate. Now, suppose I find the standard deviation, right? Most of us don't know ये standard deviation से benefit क्या है. This is the standard deviation, the value which you get, right? Now, whatever you're working on a research proposal for anybody, right? How will you interpret the standard deviation for that variable? That is what is research all about, right? Mathematics हम लोग सब लोग करते हैं, but now the time is how well you can translate these mathematical values into an information which can guide the businesses, Standard deviation बहुत कुछ बताता है. Standard deviation tells you how much is your data spread from the mean. And we don't want a data which is too much spread from the mean. When we were doing the clinical trials, we collected the data for a number of vital parts. What is the blood pressure of the individual? And then we made sure that we don't get a data where there is too much spread in the data, because that data will not be good for the clinical trial. So most of the people were saying, why is it taking so much of time to get the vaccine? Right? The problem was the population we were to cater. Right? We had a huge population of 130 crores, and if you take even 1% sample, it's a big one. Right? And you need to do that clinical trial, and the sample should be good. So I don't want too much standard deviation in the sample, right? Because then that will not be reflective of the population, right? I'm not giving this vaccine to only the sample on which I did the clinical trial. I want to give the vaccine to all the 130 crore people in India. So that is where the standard deviation actually comes into picture. Similarly, you can find the variance, the variability, right? And you simply write VAR. This is the variance. This is the variance in the data, right? Variance is generally the square of the standard deviation, right? The square of the standard deviation. So what I'm saying, when you do a research, when you do a research problem, you get these mathematical values, and then you need to convert these mathematical values into something, right, which you can apply on a business. You can tell that person, based on these mathematical values, you need to do this kind of modification in your business. That is what all basically data science is all about. So you get, this is the descriptive statistics which you get: mean, median, mode. Then you have something like mode. Mode is the class with the highest frequency. Class with the highest frequency. अब बहुत से लोग हैं मोड इनकम का निकाल देते हैं. It is again absolutely wrong. You don't have a mode for a numeric variable. You always have a mode for a categorical variable like gender. So suppose I want, so I say table, then I say data ICAI, and then dollar. That is why I created this variable gender. Data ICAI data. Now it says me, in my sample, there are 91 boys registered and there are 109 girls. So which is the model class? The model class is the class with the highest frequency. And that is what is a girl. That the class is a girl. The class is a girl. But people don't know, right? Mean किसका निकालना चाहिए, median किसका निकालना चाहिए, और mode किसका निकालना चाहिए. कुछ लोग मोड निकाल देते हैं न्यूमेरिक वेरिएबल का, और कुछ लोग मीन निकाल देते हैं कैटेगोरिकल वेरिएबल का. राइट, दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम. दैट इज व्हाट वी should try to understand as far as data science is concerned. Right. So any questions anybody would like to ask, because that was the kind of time which was given to me. This can continue, right? For me there is no issue, but then as far as the guidelines which I have, any questions anybody would like to pose, I would like to answer.
Participants, anybody if has any doubts, sir is available. And
anything very general, anything very this is all something which is very new to all of you. Mathematics is not new to all of you, because all of you are working in this area of where mathematics is something which you use every day. Now it is just converting these mathematics into some statistical values and then get some interpretation of it. So that is the only addition which you will be doing as far as research methodology is concerned.
Sir, I think there are some questions in the chat box, sir.
Okay.
One question is from Abhishek ji. Where can we find glossary of functions?
Where can you find the glossary of functions? You can find it on the website cran.org. CRAN.org. That website will give you all the glossary of functions. And like you see your WhatsApp every day, you can visit this website every day, right? Because every day people are contributing functions. It's a good thing, right? People are contributing functions on this cran.org, right? There are people who are contributing functions, and these functions like mean, median, mode, somebody has created. You can see functions which are useful in your area, right? So it's a wonderful question, because there are around, as of now, we have 20,000 libraries, and every library has thousands of functions. That is what I can say. That is the extent. That is the extent. So generally, you don't need to see the library for every field. You see it in your core area, right? Like I don't see it for every field of engineering. I see it in my field of engineering. But if you get some good functions, it will make your life easy. Like आपको बहुत सारे functions Excel में मिलते हैं. Average, VLOOKUP, right? If count, that makes your life easy, right? Similarly, you have many functions in R. और अगर आपने सही function सही time पे catch कर लिया, you will be able to do something which most of the people have not done. So you can visit this website every day, right? This website is not owned by anybody. This is a website where all the people who are enthusiastic about research, they keep on contributing, right? Might be one day you get so proficient that you also start contributing some functions which people in your industry can use, and you will be recognized. You will be recognized for your efforts. And then there are a few websites from where you can get data. Kaggle.com. You can आप लिख सकते हो. Kaggle.com, Kaggle. It's a wonderful place to get data. GitHub.com, GitHub, GitHub.com, right? These two places you get lots of data, right? And then you have the data. There are many websites for stock prices, bseindia.com, and so many websites are there. But now most of the data is available on the public domain. Now, most of the data is available on the public domain. You just need to see which public domain's data is of interest to you. That is what I can say. You don't need to hunt for data too much now, right? That those days are actually over.
Sir,
Sir,
they
can
are
you repeat the
requesting.
website?
Yeah, please.
One is Kaggle's, K-A-G-G-L-E, K-A-G-G-L-E, Kaggle.com. This is a wonderful website.
Yeah.
It has a repository of data. And the second one is GitHub, G-I-T-H-U-B.
Sir, and the first one for glossary?
For glossary, cran.org, CRAN.org.
Fine. So
I always
hope
recommend these websites because the problem generally people face when they start doing the research is to get data. And getting primary data, those days are over. You don't have to go and hunt and collect data from everybody, right? That is an old fashion, right? The smarter way is you get the secondary data which is there in the public domain, and these are all verified data sets, right? They have been verified by the competent authority.
great, sir.
You can get too much data. Somebody wants to see the impact of COVID on the industry, right? There's lots of data which is available on the public domain as far as the COVID is concerned, and that is where we are all working on. Because maybe I don't have that much of time, but I could have told you how the COVID has impacted the whole way of working in data science. हमारे तो काम करने का तरीका ही बदल गया. Why? Because we never the way the data has come up post COVID, right? We are changing the models itself. We are changing the models itself because the last pandemic was 100 years back, 1920, Spanish flu. उस समय का कोई डेटा ही नहीं है. उस समय का कोई डेटा ही नहीं है. और ये डेटा हम लोग इसलिए यूज कर रहे हैं. The reason is now this kind of a pandemic will repeat. So we should be better equipped to handle the pandemic whenever it happens next. That is where this data science industry is undergoing a big change. Because all the models which are existing now, they don't have the component of handling pandemic. So that is a new component for all of us, right? So we are all using this data. This is a very valuable data which we have, right? And the reason is we are better prepared to handle the pandemic next time whenever it comes.
Fine, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable inputs. Now I request Pinky Kedia ma'am, our RCM, to please offer you vote of thanks and also introduce the next faculty who is present for this. Over to you, Pinky ma'am.
Yes, sir. One more question is there, sir. Sir, I am pursuing the PhD in rule of law in India. Can you suggest some guidelines?
It's a very good area to work, I'll say. It's a very good area to work. In fact, in this area, not many, as far as I know, not many people have actually worked in this particular area, right? And what I can suggest is that don't limit yourself only to the structured data, right? Do think of incorporating the unstructured data also, because these two powerful tools can handle the unstructured data, right? If you want any kind of, maybe you want some help from me, right? You take that help from me, but do a good work, right? I have no issues, whatever I can offer, right? But try to collect both structured and unstructured data. That is what I'll say.
Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your valuable feedback on this thing. Dr. Saurabh Agarwal had taken the subject in very lucid and elaborate manner, and we learned a lot of things from him. Actually, nowadays, our audit is also like a data analytics only. We can do better if we go into this field, and the result will be very good and reliable also. Because now, as sir said, that it's now big data only. So we should learn this data analytics tools. Sir has informed us what the difference between work in research and work in industry, what difference between statistical analysis and data analysis. Actually, sir, we didn't know before that. We thought both those things are same. but thank you to enlighten us about the difference between all this terminology, which we are lacking for that. So I think with sir's guidance, we all can do more better, and we should do more courses on data analytics because it's a future.
Absolutely,
because-
ma'am. There is absolutely no issue on that front. If you don't have, if you don't have this skill set in you, the future is difficult.
या gone are those days कि हम लोग वो भाई बसना लेके लाल वाली बुक लेके टिक मार्क करते थे. So now
वो
we
समय,
have to,
मैम वो समय चला गया.
वही मैं बोल रही हूँ कि वो समय चला गया कि वो लाल वाले बसने लेके आते थे, वो क्लाइंट बैठ के हम टिक मार्क करते रहते थे, वो लेजर मैच करते रहते थे. Now we have to think big because the data are big and we have to analyze that. So sir, very much thanks.
आपको मुझे ज्यादा तो नहीं पता, लेकिन मुझे ऐसा लगता है डेटा ऑडिटिंग के साथ में आपको क्लाइंट को और भी बहुत कुछ इनपुट देना पड़ेगा.
एक्चुअली क्योंकि हमारा काम सिर्फ ऑडिट करना या अकाउंट्स करना नहीं है, वी आर एडवाइजर टू आवर क्लाइंट्स.
करेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली.
सो उनको हम अभी जैसे आपने
and for being a better advisor, this is the tool which you should know.
करेक्ट कि तो अभी जैसे आपने बताया था प्रिडिक्टिव एनालिटिक्स एंड प्रेस्क्रिप्टिव एनालिसिस में डिफरेंस, तो सर उस समय मेरा एक क्वेश्चन आ रहा था दिमाग में कि जो ऑनलाइन सेल कंपनियां जो सेल करती है, तो जैसे हम मोबाइल में कुछ भी सर्च करते हैं तो उसी के ऊपर ही बाद में सारी चीजें अपने आप से आना स्टार्ट हो जाती है.
करेक्ट.
तो इज दिस अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस एनालिसिस कि हमारा बिहेवियर वो समझ जाते हैं कि हम क्या सर्च कर रहे हैं साइट पे, अकॉर्डिंगली वो लोग हमें देना स्टार्ट कर देते देने एडवर्टीजमेंट्स.
करेक्ट. दैट इज व्हाट इज डेटा एनालिटिक्स. आप जैसे ही कुछ सर्च करोगे, राइट, आप वो उनके सिस्टम में चला जाएगा और उस सिस्टम के हिसाब से वो वैसे ही फिर आपको दैट इज व्हाट इज नोन एज रिकमेंडेशन. दे विल स्टार्ट गिविंग यू द रिकमेंडेशन. That is known as a recommendation system.
Yeah, I observed that in every website what I will serve now, in all the website they are giving that type of ad what Correct. I was searching 24 hours 48 hours before.
So you have to be very, मतलब whatever you do on the net, everything you are doing on the net, कोई ना कोई आपके डेटा को कैप्चर कर रहा है. The moment you get connected to the net, so you are sharing lots of information on the net. आप अपना नाम, अपना age, अपनी income, right? Those are all getting on the public domain, and these people are using your data on the public domain, right? And then coming out with all those recommendation systems. यही चीज आपको अपने client के साथ भी करनी होगी, right? You need to understand your client and then recommend him different products.
Correct. Correct.
And if you don't relate that client with the correct product, he will go away.
Yeah, very true, very true.
अब
So
आप
many
जियो के जितने भी customers हैं, what they do is before a customer turns away, they'll start sending messages to him. That is what is required to survive in the industry. And this is what is basically happening because of all these data analytics into picture. आप Google Map use करते हो, 2 मिनट के अंदर वो आपको बता देता है कितना टाइम लगेगा. That is a predictive model, right? It tells you very precisely how much time will it take maybe to reach Nariman Point from Goregaon, right? That is a predictive model which is there.
ओके सर, ये सब बोल के तो आप हमें डरा भी रहे हो साथ में कि हमारी सब चीज ऑनलाइन में जा रही है, तो सो जो सीनियर बंदे हैं वो थोड़े डरते भी है. दैट्स व्हाई दे आर नॉट वांट टू गिव ऑल दिस थिंग्स ऑनलाइन.
नहीं सर, कि हमारा आप ऐसा ट्राई भी करना. Maybe you don't know your name of your grandfather. Google will.
Yeah, I know.
No.
Yes.
You know, I don't know because I never spoke his name, right? So maybe I'm just trying to tell you the power of analytics. So this is the power of analytics, right? Which all of us now, right? और खास करके जितने भी ये टेक्निकल फील्ड्स हैं मैम, whether it's a CA field or engineering or medical, for them it is very, very important.
Correct, sir. So I think we should change our way of working from conservative model. We should come with smart model with data analytics.
Correct.
And, sir,
these are smart models. You will have to work smartly, nahi to you will be left out in your domain.
Actually,
you will be left out in your domain.
Yeah. So, sir, very well. Thanks, sir, for inviting us on this subject. And we all are very much benefited with your presentation. So, sir, man, thanks. And I request all the participants to clap for him. And now, sir, it's our pleasure you are here. For next session, I will call Dr. Balkrishna Parab, sir. So, sir is here. Sir, you can stop sharing your.
I have stopped.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. Professor Balkrishna Parab, sir, is a full-time faculty in the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. He has more than 30 years experience in teaching and training. Apart from teaching MBA students, he is actively involved in corporate training, management development program, and as a resource person at various institutes. He is also invited as a speaker at the residential DMBF course conducted by the ICI at Hyderabad. Professor Parab obtained his doctoral degree in finance from the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. His research interests include raising of capital and stock market returns, and he has published several research articles in reputed journals. He has also published a book on real estate finance. He has guided several students in their research activities. Previously, Dr. Parab was the IMC Chair Professor of Banking and Finance, the Chairman of Board of Studies in Banking and Finance at the University of Mumbai, and a member of the Academic Council of the University of Mumbai. So with this brief introduction, I want to welcome you for today's seminar, sir. So, sir, please, with the answer yours.
Thank you, Kedia Madam. Thank you for your introduction. And I will share my presentation and I will start my discussion. So I've got a very specific topic, which is exploring your research ideas and constructing your search. So how will you search for your data and how will you structure your research idea? So I've got a very focused topic on this. So I'm going to start with some very basics. For example, what is research? And because all of us are highly experienced people, we are working in the field, we have got specialized knowledge also. Then somebody can ask us a question like, why are you doing research? And the answer is this. Research is about knowing things and not so much about what we know, but how we know it. Because you know that professionally, because when we're sitting with friends and our colleagues, we make a lot of statements in the air that this is what is happening, that is what is happening. That time nobody asks us and nobody counters it. How do you know? But in professional setting, we have to weigh every word we say, and people are going to ask us, how do you know this? For example, we have got a lot of intuitions in finance and accounting. One intuition is that young people invest more in equity compared to debt. Now that's suppose you answer this question, who told you this? Everybody knows. But then how do you know it? Did you do some research on this? So research is not so much about what we know as how we know it. And how do you know what you know? Some of the things you know seem to be absolutely obvious to you. If somebody asked you, the world is round, how do you know the world is round? And you will say, everybody knows that. Why should I find out how the world is round? But then, you know that not many years back, people actually knew, they thought that they knew the world was flat. So what we consider today as everybody knows may not really be true. Because there was a time when everybody knew that world was flat. So research is about how do you know what you know? So why conduct research? That is one question, Professionals like you people may wonder why we are going into this research. We already are knowledgeable people. We have got expert knowledge. We have got professional knowledge, and why research? And I'll give you a few answers about why we should do research. One is, we want to map out a topic that may warrant further studies. For example, I just heard the closing remarks of the previous faculty and Mrs. Kedia, and it was coming out that so many things are happening in this world. how is it going to affect my profession? How is it going to affect my professional life? So we want to carry out a research to map out a topic that may want further study later. And for example, a question like, what is the impact of blockchain on the accounting profession? Now, that is a very relevant question. Some of us should take up this topic. What is the impact of artificial intelligence on the accounting profession? And when you do research on this, what are you doing is that you're mapping out a topic and opening it up and say, okay, this is what can happen. What is the impact going to be on blockchain on the accounting profession? Another reason why people do research is when they want to describe something. So they want to describe that, let us say, for example, what is the shareholding pattern of companies on the listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange? For example, what is the proportion of promoter holding or controlling shareholding on in the various companies? And over the time, how it is going up or going down. That is descriptive research. You're describing the state of affairs as it exists at a particular point in time. Thirdly, sometimes we do research for explanatory purpose, provide reasons for the phenomena in the form of causal relationship. For example, we want to say that how dividend announcement impacts stock prices. So we know that whenever dividend announcements are made or whenever significant policy announcements are made by the company, there is an impact on the stock prices of the company. So how are they impacting? How quickly is the impact absorbed? And does the impact linger on for a number of days? And this is an explanatory question. So we conduct research for three reasons. One is to map out a topic. Secondly, to describe a state of affairs. And thirdly, to explain a particular phenomena. And technically, in the word of jargon, we'll call this three different types of research. That is exploratory research, descriptive research, and explanatory research. So exploratory research talks about opening up an area, a new thing has happened, and we want to know the dimensions of that new thing, possible impact of that new thing, and we do exploratory research. Or we do descriptive research to describe something which already is there, but somehow we have not, paid our attention to this. And explanatory research is done to look at the relationship between two variables, like what is the relation between announcement of dividends and the change in the stock prices. So exploratory studies are most typically done for three purposes: to satisfy the researcher's curiosity and desire for a better understanding. Like all of you are saying that how will this big data and artificial intelligence, how is it going to affect me personally? How is it going to affect my profession? So for that, you do exploratory research to satisfy the researcher's curiosity and desire for better understanding, to test the feasibility of undertaking a more extensive study, and to develop the methods to be employed in any subsequent studies. That would be exploratory research. Secondly, we have got descriptive research. Now, the major purpose of many research studies is to describe situations and events. The researcher may observe and then describes what he has observed. For example, many qualitative studies aim primarily at description. For example, you may say, what are the risk management practices in particular sector? What is the risk culture of companies in the banking finance sector? And that is description. What is the risk culture in these companies? What are the risk management practices adopted by the companies? What are the various hedging techniques used for managing foreign exchange exposure by, let us say, companies in the IT sector? You're describing that. Such studies are seldom limited to a mere descriptive purpose. Often, researchers usually go on to examine why the observed pattern exists and what they imply. Thirdly, we have got explanatory research. We want explanation. Human beings are curious people. They want to know why do these things happen. So third general purpose of research is to explain things. And descriptive studies answer the question of what, where, and how. But explanatory studies answer the question why, because human beings have a curiosity to know the reason behind so many things. Some of the questions sought to be answered by exploratory research is, what are the determinants of the decision to make an IPO? How does a company decide whether it should make an IPO or not? And what are the motivations of mergers and acquisitions that we keep hearing about M&A transaction happening numerous times on a single day? And we want to know the motivations of different companies doing this mergers and acquisitions. So that is explanatory research. Now we talk about the time dimension in research. So what the data we have got and what time dimension we are going to look at. So here we talk about three types of studies, and one we have got a cross-sectional study. Now in this study, study is based on observation representing a single point of time. So for example, you have a question in your mind which says that, do family control companies perform better than non-family control companies, or we call them professionally controlled companies? So what will you do? You will have to, develop some measure of what do you mean by performance, because performance is such a vague term. Performance can be in terms of profits. Performance can be based on in terms of stock market performance. Performance can be based on operational efficiency. So we have to develop some variable for performance. And then we take a sample of family controlled companies. And then we take a sample of professionally controlled company at a given point of time, let us say this financial year, and look at, what is the performance of the family controlled company based on profitability factor vis-a-vis the performance of professionally controlled company on the same factor. Or the factor could be stock market performance, or the factor could be operational efficiency, working capital management. That would be a cross-sectional study because all the observation are at a particular point of time. So we look at the figures from the balance sheet data and from the P&L account data on the performance of these companies. Secondly, we have got something called as a longitudinal study. A longitudinal study is a one which is designed to permit observation of the same phenomena over an extended period of time. Now, all of you know that, at one time, when we had to measure the performance of a banking company, we would look at the net interest margin. And net interest margin today is under tremendous stress because, depositors don't want to deposit money in the bank because they have got so many other avenues of investment. At the same time, borrowers are not looking at, banks for borrowing the money. They again have got so many more avenues. So both the asset side and the liability side of a bank's balance sheet are getting, stressed. As a result, any bank which depends upon net interest income and net interest margin, that bank is, maybe not going to do well in the future. So what the banks are focusing on is fee-based income. Now, somebody want to study that, what is the composition of the income of banking companies? What proportion of the income is fee-based income and what proportion of income is interest-based income? And over the years, is it changing? And then we can, develop a study where we have, on one set of companies, the private sector banks, other set of companies, we could have foreign banks, third set of companies could be a PSU bank, and look at the changes over time about the dependence on interest income and dependence on fee income, and is it changing over time? And that would be called as a longitudinal study because we are not looking at data at a particular point of time. We are looking at data over a period of time. One more type of study is done, which is called as a trend study, which is actually a subset of the longitudinal study. And we want to study is that a type of longitudinal study that examines changes within a population over time. So for example, all of you know that, the Companies Act says that there should be a women representation on the board of directors of certain company. Now we can look at the trend in gender diversity of the board of directors in company in a specific industry, and then we can correlate this with some performance parameters. And because the reason why the law insists on having gender diversity in the board of directors is because they believe that gender diversity will bring in some new benefits. Ultimately, whatever the company does should reflect in the profitability and the financial performance of the company. Then can we relate gender diversity to financial performance of a company? That would be a trend study. So there are three time dimensions in research. We could do a cross-sectional study, we could do a longitudinal study, and we can do a trend study. Now, before we go further, my topic is quite broad topic and not a very specific and nitty-gritty topic. So I would invite people to ask questions as and we go on. And so that I can take the question as and when it is relevant to this topic which I'm discussing. Fine. So let us move forward. Next, we have got what data collection methods are there. And because this was, I think I just joined a little early and I was able to listen to some of the questions because many questions were coming on data collection methods for doing your research. Now, there are three broad ways in which you can collect data. And there is something called survey research. So survey research is widely used data collection method that involves getting information from people, typically by asking questions and collecting and analyzing the answers. So for example, let us say, I did a study in which, for example, for investment purposes, we know that people should invest in a manner consistent with their risk tolerance. Now, one question I wanted to ask was that, are people aware of the risk tolerance? So suppose, for example, what do you think? If I ask a question to this group, and this group is a very accomplished group, let us say common people, and I ask, let us say you ask 100 people, what is your risk tolerance limit? High, low, or medium? Can you guess what answer you will get? Anybody want to say? If you ask 100 people of various age categories, various income levels, various socioeconomic categories, you ask 100 people, what is your risk tolerance limit, and just give them three options, high, low, and middle. Anybody want to be practically guessing what is going to be the answer? Yes, I think somebody has answered. I found out almost 100% people say medium. Because when answering question, people don't want to be taking a extreme position like a very high or low. 100% people will say medium. That is a big problem with survey research. So what I did, because for doing a study on risk tolerance, many of these large financial firms, they have developed some standardized questionnaires, and based on which they determine the risk tolerance. Because all these portfolio managers and all these private wealth managers, when they allocate as investments and they create a portfolio for HNI investors, they want to be clear about what is the risk tolerance of that investor. And simply asking the investor is useless because he himself doesn't know. First thing, what is the level of financial literacy we have? One survey research can be done on that. Like, are people even aware of their own risk tolerance? And you may get the answer, no, they are not even aware of the risk tolerance. Then the second question is this: are people investing funds in a manner consistent with their risk tolerance? So how do we know what is their risk tolerance? Because their answer is not relevant. So we know that many of these big financial firms, they have developed some standardized tools to measure the risk tolerance limit of people. And they have designed some question taking help of psychologists, etc. And they have designed question and they have given options over there. And depending on the option selected by the participant, they give marks for that question and total they take up. And on the basis of that total, they will say whether really this person risk tolerance is very high, only high, medium, or low, or very low. Now that is a standardized tool which has been tested and which has turned out well in studies on risk tolerance. So what I do, I first ask people, are you aware of your risk tolerance, high, medium, low? 100 people say medium. Then I administered that questionnaire to these 100 people. I said, now simply answer these questions. And this question could be, what is the income, age? And we all know that younger people have got more risk tolerance compared to older people. People who have got a regular income have got a higher risk tolerance compared to people who have got variable income. And there are some psychological questions. For example, what is the color of your car? Now somebody could say, what does it matter? It matters because psychologists have found out that people driving red color car have got a high risk tolerance, because normally people who have got high risk tolerance, they normally go and select a color which is warm color like red. On the other hand, people who have got low risk tolerance, conservative people, normally will select a color of a car which is cream color, white color, or soft color. So they ask a question, what is the color of your car? What are your hobbies? Somebody says my hobby is playing chess. So they may come to the conclusion, maybe, yeah, this person is conservative. Or somebody would say my hobby is bungee jumping, mountain hiking, and something like that. So based on all these parameters, a questionnaire has been designed on with the basis of which we can actually find out what is the risk tolerance of this person. We compared the answer we got from the standard questionnaire with the answer the person gave, and you can prove that many people in your sample, they're actually not even aware of their own risk tolerance. Then the second question is that are you investing money in a manner consistent with your risk tolerance? So it's common sense that people having high risk tolerance should invest money more on equity, and within that they should put more money on small cap and mid cap, and vice versa. And then when you actually ask people where do you invest money, and you find that many of these high risk capacity or high risk tolerance people are investing money in FDs, and conversely you'll find that people who have got a low risk tolerance are putting money in mid caps and small cap companies. So this is one way in which we can actually we come to a conclusive finding that whether people are financially literate, are they investing in a manner consistent with that, consistent with the risk tolerance, and this is called the survey method, and the data which we collect on this is called the primary data. But this type of research is relevant for finance to a large extent. Yeah, I think Rupali is asking over where can we combine research with psychology and finance? In fact, yes. In fact, when we combine two topics now, that becomes path making. So I'll come back to you, Rupali, when I'll talk about behavioral finance, and I'll talk about what are some of the illustrative topics in different areas of finance which can be taken, because when you're starting your research, the first headache is that what topic do I take, and the topic should be such that you should have interest in that topic. And secondly, the topic should be such that on which you can get data. Many times, I overheard that some people have taken a topic and they don't know where the data is. So, but then I think that should be the first thing to check, is data available on that topic, and then select that topic. So one way of data collection is doing a survey. Doing survey has become a very, very easy thing nowadays, because you have got Google Forms. And we can do a survey on Google Form and send it to lots of people, and getting responses of 100, 200 people is not at all a big deal now. But there are a lot of problems in that survey. And one of the problem in that survey, one of the problem in the survey method is that we don't know who's answering the question. Suppose, for example, you want the views of, let us say, I did a research survey on what is the ease of doing business in India. And I wanted to know the views of people who have traveled abroad, because those people will be in a better position to tell me what is the state of doing business abroad and what is the state of doing business in India. So I told my student that do a survey with people who have traveled abroad, and they found out a list of people who have traveled abroad. They sent the questionnaire, but I'm not sure whether that person answered the question or his son and daughter answered the question, who may be too young to understand the implication of that thing. And again, people take the middle path most of the time. And that is a major drawback of the survey method. But if your topic is such, again, what research method you use will depend upon what is your topic that you have selected. So if your topic you have selected is something what I talked about just now, then you have got no alternative but to use the survey method of doing research. In fact, in many other subjects like marketing and HR, this is the only method. They have got no alternative, but they do this method. And if you're trying to do research in finance, which I hope you people are trying to do research in accounting and finance, you will be psyched by these marketing and HR people. They'll tell you that no, primary data is the research data, otherwise you can't do research. And that is not applicable to accounting and finance. So accounting and finance, mostly we do research which is called empirical research. And empirical research means the data used in empirical studies may be collected from company annual reports. Company annual reports have got huge amount of data. So if any finance person says that data is not available, and that is laughable, because company annual reports have a huge amount of data. And more importantly, all of you know that every company submits their financial statements to the government. And earlier, these financial statements were given in physical form, and they used to go in the ROC office, and the ROC office, a big dump was there where they were dumped. Today, the government has become smarter. What they do, they give the annual report data to private entities like the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, Capital Line, and these people have digitized the annual report data. So I'm using CMI Prowess. I have got access to 2 lakh companies' annual report data for 20 years. So for example, I can type a query in my CMI Prowess database and say, I want to know the cement companies, how many cement companies are there, and what is the capacity utilization of cement companies in India. And then I can get another set of data about automobile companies, and what is the sales of automobile company, I can correlate that with the oil prices. And that is a huge resource which finance people have got. We don't have to get up from our seat. And all this databases like CMI, Prowess, Capital Line, they have digitized the data for lakhs of companies and over 20 years. So longitudinal study is possible, and data should not at all be a problem. And many of your offices may be subscribing to CMI, Prowess, or Capital Line, and accessing data in one day. You can collect data for 20,000 companies over 20 years, and this one day job. Similarly, we can use stock market data. For example, what is the performance of IPOs compared to regular companies? Today, you know that we have got SME IPOs. BSE and NSE have set up a separate platform for listing of SME company shares, and listing of high innovation company startups also can be listed. And a separate platform has been created for them because, of course, as all of us know, investing in SME is not everybody's cup of tea. And investing in startups and high-tech innovative company is also not everybody's cup of tea. And they don't want, the government doesn't want that, the common people should invest in such companies. And that is why what they have done is they have set up a separate platform for listing of SME companies and listing of innovative companies. And they have put a restriction that every transaction size in those companies should be at least 1 lakh, believing that if somebody's a transaction hand is 1 lakh rupee, then a common person would not be involved in this. And then we can compare. Suppose as a typical investor, you invested in the SME platform companies, and you invested in the main trading companies, the usual trading companies. Are you getting different returns? Now you will assume that if you invest in SME platform, your return should be higher because you're taking more risk compared to the main board, where the return should be comparatively lower because you're suffering less risk. Is it true? We can find out, and we can do a study within a week's time, and we can get this result, and we can prepare a research report on this. I think again, Geet is asking me a question: is empirical research analysis like experimental analysis? And the answer is no. And yeah, so empirical research is not experimental research. I'll tell you what is this experimental research and empirical research. In empirical research, what are we doing? We have got two variables, and both are not in our hands. Both variables are not in our hand. So let us say, for example, I'm looking at, what is the listing day returns of IPOs? Because you know that many years back, before SEBI came into being, IPOs used to be oversubscribed, 200 times, 2000 times. Why were the IPO oversubscribed so many times in those days? Anybody know some historical background for that? And why were the IPOs oversubscribed so many times in the olden days? The reason was that the pricing of the IPO was controlled by the controller of capital issue. So if the fair value of the share is 200, he would get permission to only issue the share at 15 rupees. And therefore, the IPOs used to be 2000 times oversubscribed and 3000 times oversubscribed. And if anybody gets a share in the IPO, the listing day price would be substantially higher. And a new type of investor was created in the stock market called a stag. And what the stag would do is, he simply apply for IPO, he gets the shares allotment, and same day he sells the share because the share price would have gone so high. Now, many old people like me have not forgotten those days. And even now, when the pricing is totally deregulated, and SEBI says, charge whatever price you want to charge, only give a justification for that. And we are not going to control at what price you are selling your shares. And in that case, oversubscriptions are 1.5 times, 2 times, 3 times, and compared to 2000 times in our time. But many investors still believe that, I should buy the share in the IPO. If I get the share in the IPO, I should be able to make a substantial profit when I sell the share in a few days' time. Now, does it really happen that way? So I want to study this phenomena. So it's a very simple study I can create. So I took all the companies which made the IPOs in the last, let us say 5 years, which is something around 300 companies. And all the data is available on NSE website, all the 300 companies who made IPOs last year. And that is one column in my Excel sheet. In fact, I'll tell you this. Empirical research is research we can actually do on Excel. We don't need any high level software or something. So I put in one column A, date of the IPO, column B, name of the companies, column C, issue price, and column D will be my opening price, the closing price on the day one. And then I check the difference between the issue price and the closing price. And then I take the average of all the 200 companies. And what should happen? What should happen is that I should get the answer. Average should be 0. Because, in the era of, book building, and when companies have got freedom in pricing the share, why should there be even oversubscription? And why should there be a significant difference between the issue price and the first day price? That is a topic called as listing day returns of a company. And then I found that there is slight increase in the value on the day one also. Again, we can explain this by saying that, even though the company has done proper valuation of the shares for the purpose of IPOs, they want to leave some money on the table so that the investors, have incentive to invest in that. If the IPO price also was fair price, then what is the incentive to invest? So that is an empirical study. So what are the two variables I'm studying? Is the issue price and the listing day closing price on the listing day. Both variables are not under my control. Both variables are not under my control. This is historical fact. Like, what was the issue price? Historical fact. I can't change that. What was the closing price on the listing day is a historical fact. I can't change that. And that is why it's called empirical research. What happens in experimental research is, both the variables are under your control. So for example, by giving what dosage of a tablet is the blood pressure of a person coming down. So I can, as an experimenter, I can change the dosage. I can start with low dose, medium dose, high dose, and then check the blood pressure level of the patient. And then I say that, okay, this dosage is better for effectively reducing the blood pressure level if it is high. Now, in this study, in physical sciences, both the variables were under my control. I can control what level of dosage I give. Can I do that in finance? I can't do that in finance. So generally in finance, you will rarely find experimental studies, although we do have some experimental studies, very rare. And again, when I'm telling you that, this happens in finance, that doesn't happen in finance, because, I had tremendous amount of argument from people doing research in marketing and HR, because they think that empirical research, you're taking secondary data, and how can secondary data be a research data? And you must collect your own data. And I had difficulty answering this question. So what I did, and we all are fact-based people, right? We go by evidence. So what I did was I went to the top finance journals in the world. I looked at the Journal of Finance. How many of the research papers in the Journal of Finance are based on survey data? And how many of the research papers in the Journal of Finance are based on empirical data? And I found that hardly 1% studies are based on survey data, and majority finance studies are based on empirical data. So that is called empirical research. And the data for empirical research are very easily available. Company annual reports, balance sheet data, cash flow data, P&L account data. And for our great benefit, organizations like the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy and Capital Line, they have digitized the data. Of course, they charge substantial fee for this. But then most of the offices, auditors have this. And most of the colleges have it. So you can always come to our college and say that, I want to access your database. And they'll be very happy to provide you the facility of accessing the database. Similarly, stock market data is easily available. BSEindia.com, NSEindia.com give you data for thousands of companies over, again, 20 years. And daily price data, opening price, average, high, low, closing, adjusted close, a trading volume, and what all you want free. Similarly, government agencies like, the Ministry of Commerce collects all the data about FDIs and GDP, and Ministry of Finance collects data on so many other parameters. So all this data is available at your fingertips, and that is the most important source of data for empirical research. You should develop a study for empirical research. Within a short time, I'll talk about broad areas of study also in accounting and finance. Then we have got something called qualitative research, which doesn't deal with numerical data, which deals with people's experiences, perceptions, behavior. For example, we know that, one of the reasons, shareholders start thinking that they're owners of the company because shareholders have got voting rights. But, who are the people exercising the voting rights? Look at the voting record of companies. So we have got some organization who collect data about, voting, attendance at the AGMs and voting at the AGMs. And at least we assume that small people will not attend the AGM because the amount of stake they have in the company is meager. So what is the incentive they have got to attend the meeting and understand the issues involved in the meeting and make up their mind and vote at the meeting? But at least don't we expect large institutional shareholders to attend the meeting and vote and take an independent position on various issues? One of the organization involved in collecting this data, they found out that 99% time, the large institutional investors also vote along with the management. They never contradict the management. Now, why does this happen? We expect the institutional investors to play a more bigger role in shareholder activism. Then we can do a qualitative study on this. We can take some appointment with this big institutional investor. Of course, they may not give appointment, they may not give you data, but we want to understand from their perspective, why don't they vote? Why don't they take an independent position? And why don't they actually vote against the management ever? They always vote with the management. Similarly, we have got some problems in mind. For example, when M&A transactions happen, for example, what difficulties do foreign companies have in acquiring Indian companies? Now, that is not available in the public domain, and that is not numerical data. So we may set up some interviews with some investors and have a sort of one-to-one talk about what difficulties they face. Now, individually, you and me will find it difficult to set up an interview. But then, suppose you're working for an organization and you have access to all these people, and then, of course, they trust you also that the information they're giving is not going to be misused. And if you win their trust over, we can actually set up an interview where we can look at the experiences of the FIIs, we can look at the experiences of the foreign investors, and we can look at these experiences, perceptions, and behavior. And based on that, we can do a qualitative study, like what difficulties are faced by companies in acquiring Indian companies, what are the major point venture capital investors and angel investors look at while investing in a company. Now, this data will never be available on the public domain. And survey also, we can't send them a form and they won't answer the form. So we have to set up meetings and we have to glean information from them, win over their trust so that they give us an interview and they share their experiences with us. Now, I talk about data analysis methods. Today, data analysis method has become trivial. In fact, most of these things we can do on Excel. We don't even require specialized tools for that. So broadly, we can talk about 3 methods of data analysis. For survey research, we require non-parametric statistical tools. So there's no normal distribution or something because the data which you collect on survey research are not normally distributed. And we use a non-parametric tool called a chi-square analysis. Chi-square analysis you can learn in 10 minutes, and we can apply the tools on Excel in half an hour. Empirical research uses statistical tools which are parametric, like correlation analysis, regression analysis, and we have got time series models. Correlation, regression are again not a big deal. Time series model will require some time to study because now people talk about volatility modeling, volatility in stock prices. So they use methods like ARCH, GARCH, which will require a bit of study, but all this thing can be done on Excel. And most of the methods of doing the correlation analysis, regression analysis, time series model analysis, they're all available on YouTube free. I just have to type out, and there will be somebody who has made a video on how do you statistically analyze this data, a 10-minute video on that. Similarly, qualitative research, then you do a method of analysis called case study research. So how is it that so-and-so company has taken so much debt and still surviving? Why is it that some company has not taken any debt? And why are they sitting on cash reserves of 20,000 crores or something? And so that would be a case study about a company, case study about an industry. So these are the various qualitative research methods. I think, Geet, if you're asking me, I'm going to share the PPT with you. And lastly, I've got very short amount of time. I'll talk about the core areas of research, the illustrative examples of research in accounting and finance. So what are the research topic we can do? Because that is a big headache. People who want to start research, like what topic? Now, I will show you some topics over here. But if you want to know a topic, normally what happens, some of us have thought about a topic and then we get married to that topic. So now यही topic है, बाकी और कोई नहीं. How do you select a topic? First of all, you should become exposed to all the various topics available. And then from that, you see what is your interest, where data is available or not available. That is the first question, your interest and availability of data. Especially when I deal with students, and I've guided hundreds of students in doing the research. One of the things I found out is that many of the students are suicidal. In the sense, what? When in finance, I tell them, we have got 2 lakh companies data, annual report data on CMI database, which you can access in 10-minute time. We have got so much stock market data, and we have got so much data on Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce. Why do you select a topic for which data is not available? Somehow, youngsters and first-time researchers always select a topic for which data is not available. And then they come and say, data is not available. I said, are you suicidal? Why do you hate yourself so much? When so much data is available in the domain of finance, why did you select a topic for which data is not available? It's actually criminal. So finance people should not even say that data is not available. Why don't you select a topic for which data is available? So how do you know a particular topic is researchable or not researchable? All topics are not researchable. Just remember this. All topics are not researchable because so many data is not available. For example, you do any research on venture capital firms or venture capital investment, private equity, by hedge funds. By very nature, they are very reticent about sharing data. They will never share the data. How do you expect that you will get the data? And so that, please take up a topic for which data is available. And all the topics which I'm talking about over here are topics on which we have done research and on which data is easily available. So let us look at capital structure of a company. So what is the relationship between leverage and profitability? The extent, the debt equity ratio or debt total asset ratio, and the profitability of the companies. Can we come to the conclusion by looking at this data for, let us say, and what study you can do? 20,000 companies data you collect, and what data you're collecting? Let us say you're collecting data about name of the company, industry, column A. Always think in terms of Excel worksheet. Column A, name of the company. Column B, industry in which this company is operating. Column C, debt equity ratio. Column D, let us say net profit margin. I'm making it very simple. Then you correlate column C and D. Is there a relationship between the debt equity ratio and the profitability of the company? You can come to the conclusion that highly leveraged companies are not as profitable compared to lowly leveraged companies. Now somebody will say everybody knows that, but everybody knows that intuitively you are coming up with facts and data. Database inferences are anytime better than everybody knows that. Everybody knows so many things, but then are they backed by facts and figures? So what is the relationship between leverage and profitability? Such a simple study to do. And you can then, may want to make it complicated, do it industry wise. You want to make it complicated, do it big companies, medium companies, small companies. Then you can also make it more complicated. What is the relationship between leverage and stock price returns? That could be a total, PhD topic. And it is such a simple thing that, all the data is available on the internet. And that this annual report data are audited data, right? So you can't manipulate that. And stock market data again is verified data. Then, raising of capital. I just now talked about, listing their returns of IPOs. Then, another study I've done is the short-term performance of IPOs. So within 3-month period, suppose a person had invested money in a newly listed company, and another person has invested money in traditional companies, already listed companies. What is the returns given by the portfolio of newly listed companies compared to the return given by the portfolio of general companies? Similarly, we can do a long-term performance analysis of IPOs, over a 3-year period, because stock price return should not be within 3 months or something. So somebody said take a longer period, over a 3-year period of time. What are the returns given by the newly listed companies compared to the returns given by established companies? Performance of SME IPOs versus the main board IPOs. Similarly, what is the impact of merger announcement? That is a big age of study. That is the informational efficiency of the market. Now, all of you know that there's a big theory in finance called as a market efficiency theory or efficient market theory, and which says that the market immediately captures all the information and reflects in the price, and then there is nothing else to be done. Now, what is the impact of merger announcements? What happens to stock price of that company? And does it go up suddenly and then normalizes, reaches a new normal, or does it linger on? And this is an area of study called as event study methodology. You can, we talked about impact of merger announcement. We can talk about impact of dividend announcement, impact of buyback announcement, impact of announcement of a change of CEO. All these events are there. And so we have a date of the event. Then we go back and see, did people, because, many times we talk about insider trading and we say that, people already knew that. If people already knew that, the share price should have started changing before the announcement was made. So we look at, a period 1 week before the announcement got made. And was there a extra volatility during that 1 week prior to the information being released? If we see there's a volatility, prior to the information release, means that information was leaked out. And then let us say, for example, the volatility was not there before the information was released. What was the volatility after the information was released? If we believe the efficient market hypothesis, it will say that as soon as the information is released, within a few minutes, the market should absorb the information, share price should go up or go down, and then reach a new normal. If this happens, then we are able to prove that efficient market hypothesis works. Otherwise, if we see the phenomena that the prices are still volatile many days after the announcement is made, then maybe this market hypothesis, efficient market hypothesis, doesn't work in our country. So all this is a type of research. Predicting financial distress of companies. If you have done some research, you'll know that 1968, a man called Altman developed a model that looking at some 5-6 ratios. And if you look at these 5-6 ratios over a period of 3-4 years, he could say that I can predict which company is going to fail and which company is not going to fail. And that is 1968 research. And can't we do something which a better research now? Can we look at some of the financial ratios over a period of time and create a model which would predict the financial distress of companies? That could be a model. Corporate governance. Can we create a corporate governance index? And what variables should be there in this index? And what is the real, ultimately, people say there should be good corporate governance, but ultimately whatever a company does should reflect in the balance sheet, right? So if the corporate governance is good, it should result in higher profitability. It should result in positive returns on the stock market. Does it actually happen? Is it happen that well-governed companies also are profitable companies? Are well-governed companies are also having capital appreciation? That is another area of research. So again, testing of market efficiency. Efficient market hypothesis says that markets are weakly efficient. So don't do technical analysis. It is useless activity because the market has already taken into account all the past information in determining the current price. You talk like this to the technical analyst and they will shout at you. So what bogus theory you're talking about? I'm making so much money on technical analysis. How do you prove it? And very simple way we can prove it, whether the markets are at least weak form efficient. Weak form efficient means that the market has already taken into account all the past information and nothing will be achieved by digging into the past information. We can prove all these hypotheses. The semi-strong hypothesis says that even fundamental analysis is useless because market doesn't wait for you to prepare a balance sheet and then prepare ratios and the balance sheet comes into your hand after 6 months and the market was waiting for that. No, market absorbs information in 1 second. So they say even fundamental analysis is not very useful thing. But how do you say that? Can you prove that? We can prove that by doing event study analysis. Then this strong firm efficient hypothesis says that market not only takes into account the past information, the current information, but also inside information. Can we prove it? Yes, we can prove it. And these are all methods and these are all studies you can do in matter of days, not even weeks and months, because all the data are available to you at your fingertips in finance. That's why please don't hate yourself and take up a topic for which data is not available. Before you take up a topic, you should check whether data is available or not available and avoid topics for which data is not available. And that is my advice to you. I've already exceeded my time. And again, I'll tell you, stop this presentation. And I just generally tell you, somebody can ask, we are already professionals. We already, very set in our profession. What is this, research and why should we do research? That is, one thing. Now, you know that, all the accountants, I'm also an accountant. All of us believe that accounting and finance is one. In fact, in India, thinking is that, accounting professionals are finance professionals. But you'll be knowing this already, that is not the world over. In America, the economist people think they're finance professionals. In fact, many of these economists have come to India and they're big consultant to NSC, BSc. They can't read a balance sheet because they think they are finance consultant. They think accounting is dispensable. In fact, they have developed a concept called as accounting noise. And what is accounting noise? Anybody in 1 minute can tell me what is this accounting noise that the economists talked about? They say that financial statements are a scorecard of the business. And how well does the scorecard of the business reflect the business reality? And they developed a concept around that. And they say that, accounting noise is the extent to which the financial statement do not reflect the business reality. And they got 3 reasons why they say the accounting noise is present. And they say it's present because of the rigidity of the accounting standards. All the PP, property, plant and equipment we are showing at costless depreciation. How is it connected with reality? And if we still are following the conservative principle, cost of market, whichever is lower, it is not reality. And then we have got so many choices within every accounting standard. This method, that method. Company can select systematically method, which will systematically overstate the profit or understate the profit. And many figures in your balance sheet are guesses. Provision for warranty, provision for this, provision for capital restructuring and corporate restructuring. And because of this, say that accounting is, in fact, there was a big speech given by the SEC chairman, Arthur Levitt. He said accounting hocus pocus. And they say, for valuation purposes, all of us also doing that. We're using cash flow models. Why are the economists using cash flow model? Because they don't understand P&L accounting. Because to understand P&L account and balance sheet, you have to read the 40 accounting standards. They had no time, they have no, but they said that, don't look at the profit figure, look at the cash flow figure. And we also do the same thing. We are using DCF model, because what is happening from accountant side, nobody's talking. If you go to all the seminars and conferences on finance, you have all these economics people talking, and suppose somebody like me talks that, "Arey, you're an accountant, sit down." So we have to do research. We have to make our voice heard. We can't be selfish and see, okay, we are doing audit, taxation, and now that is my life. And some of the senior people should take the lead in this and give a counterfight to the economists, because the hegemony of the economists actually, and most of us don't even know that how we are being suppressed and how our voices are suppressed, and all the economic models actually don't talk about account. In fact, if you go to a research seminar where these economists are there, make use of accounting, they say one of the drawback of your study is that you use accounting ratios. I said, how is that a drawback? It's audited figure. And they said, no, accounting figures are doubtful, because that concept of accounting noise. And why is that narrative prominent? Because only those people have got no other work. They're only doing research. We have got 100 other work, and we once in a while think about doing research. So there has to be, this initiative taken by the institute is a great initiative, because we have to encourage research. At least, the senior people have achieved some position in their life, and now they're looking for self-actualization. And younger people have got relatively more time. So these young people and the middle people will leave them on, because they're building their career. And the young people and the older people should come together, and we should make our voices heard. So thank you very much. I have exceeded my time by 10 minutes. And I went very fast because I wanted to cover the topics which I wanted to cover.
No, sir, actually your session was so much interactive, so much interesting that we didn't see the time also that it has exceeded, because you well cover all the areas what you have given. One question is there, that can you please suggest some sites for data collection regarding cement, paint and tire industries? CMI database, CMI prowess. And if you see, if your company doesn't have, suppose where you're working depends on that, you come to any of the management colleges, come to my college in Mumbai, and we will open up the CMI database for you. 20 years data of all the cement companies in India. 20 years annual report data, which include balance sheet, P&L account, cash flow statement, director's report, and special reports prepared by CMI. On your fingertips, half an hour, you will get all the data for all these listed companies on cement, and plus some unlisted companies also. Great.
Capital Line, I've got CMI prowess, but Capital Line is providing the same service.
So we can we all can get data from sir also.
Yes. We'll be very happy because it's a non-perishable item. Na? How many people use doesn't matter. We have already paid 5 lakh rupees per annum for that.
Second question is, sir, can you suggest us the thoughts of other scholar useful for rule of law study?
I didn't get the question. What is it?
Question is from Kishore Goel. Can you suggest us the thoughts of other scholar useful for rule of law study?
Rule of law study would be, a qualitative study because there is no numerical data on that. So you have to, take a detailed interview of, prominent lawyers. And first of all, first research thing, anybody wants to do research, first thing is, look at the literature review. Who are the other people who have done research on that area? So that you can cover a broad spectrum of, parameters of that. For example, when you talk about rule of law, what comes under rule of law? Rule of law comes under one item which comes under that is natural justice. Is there natural justice? Is there accountability over here? And is there, let us say, for example, transparency when the law is made? Is it one day the people bring in the parliament? Or is it that a draft is published? Then the parliamentary committee goes through that. They invite suggestion from people. And these are all elements of rule of law. So you make 10 elements of rule of law and take detailed interviews of eminent jurists on this, and then you will get all the information about the topic of rule of law.
Sorry. He's saying that is unwritten and written law comparison.
Yes, because rule of law means what? Rule of law has to have some parameters. So there should be, if you're going to say if there or not there. So you make a list of all the parameters which form what is rule of law. So accountability is there. Is the Prime Minister accountable to the Parliament? Is the so-and-so authority accountable or not? Is the government notifying all the draft of the laws, and they're discussing that in the Parliament, and the parliamentary committee is discussing that? So all these are parameters of rule of law. Is there natural justice? Are people giving time, opportunity to present their case? And so if you make this list of 10 parameters like this, and then you collect the views of 100 people on these 10 parameters, and you will be able to develop a study on whether rule of ultimately should result to a yes no answer. Is there rule of law? Is there no rule of law? If there is no rule of law, where are we lacking? And what can be done in the future to improve the rule of law in India? Similarly, I did a study on ease of doing business in India, which is again a World Bank study. And then we can say that on 10 parameters, starting business, availability of permits, and so on and so forth. And we asked question to people, and they gave us answer, and then we came to a conclusion that on a scale of 0 to 5, the ease of doing business of India is so and so, and what needs to be done to improve the ranking of India.
Sir, what you are saying that you have done PhD in ease of doing business. So whether you are comparing with
No,
other
I've
countries
not done PhD. I've done research on capital markets.
Okay. So, but if we do research on ease of doing business, we have to compare the data with other country also. With the
Actually, we have to compare with other countries, but then whose view will you take into account? That is a big question. If I ask normal people on the street, is it ease of doing business in India? He will not know, because Rahul Bajaj has expired and yesterday. But remember in our time when I was in school, my father applied for a Bajaj Chetak. So that by the time I passed the graduation, I would get the Chetak. It would take 6 years. Did we feel bad about it? No, we did not feel bad about it, because we did not know there's another world somewhere where you pay the money and next day you get the scooter. We did not know. So people who have gone abroad, only they will be able to answer this question whether ease of doing business in India is okay or not okay. So we have to only ask such people. So that is a problem with survey research. We'll ask common man, what does he know? And how is it answers relevant for my study?
The common men say that no, Modi ji ne bahut sare tax laga diye, bahut sare
no, but only, and then we have to ask different parameters, like ease of starting business and getting electricity connection and how many permits are required. Because if you simply ask opinion, then opinion can be different. Like people don't even know their own risk tolerance. So we have to break up that into 20 different questions, and one question we ask, and then we aggregate the answer, and then we come to a conclusion whether these people have got a high, low, or medium risk tolerance.
Okay, sir. Sir, one participant is asking, how can we contact you for your guidance during our journey for PhD?
Yes, please. I'll be more. See, I've struggled. I'm telling you this. I've struggled a lot for doing my PhD. So I'll be very happy to help you. So I'm going to share my presentation, and I'm going to share my email ID and mobile number also.
She is also asking that, can we have research topic and the impact of crude oil on different industry of India?
Madam Muna, what I will tell you, when you select a topic, look at what research has happened earlier on this topic or similar topic. And one good site for that is ssrn.com, Social Science Research. I'll just type it in the chat box. Social Science Research Network.com. That will give you lots of topics of doing research. Then you don't know what you do on this topic which you're talking about. You do some literature review, what other people have done, how did they design the study, from where did they get the data. And let us say, for example, we talk about in the capital market liquidity. How do you measure liquidity? So there are 10 different ways of measuring liquidity. So we have to look at what others have done and how others have measured liquidity. We talk about performance. Performance has got so many dimensions. It could be financial performance. It could be, stock market performance, profitability performance. Somebody will say economic value added performance. So what performance measure should you take? So this all will come from literature review. So go to these sites and go to online journals. And if you are in Mumbai, you can come to our library, Bajaj, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Library at Bagway Reclamation. We are spending 15 lakh rupees on buying online journals every year. So we have got lots of online journal, and this is a non-perishable thing. So if you use it, it's not becoming less from you. So come please and use it. And that much facility, we are very welcoming. We are a research institute, and so we will make it available to you. So by looking at the previous research, you come to know what is researchable, what is not researchable. How do you structure your study? Because all of us are professional. Without structure, we'll get lost. We all know that. So whenever we take up any assignment, we first look at the dimension of the assignment, how much time will go, how much work is involved, how many hours are involved, and how can you do research without doing this type of a study. So even this research, you should do this. Like how much work is involved in that, and divide the project into modules. How much time on this module? What data requirements are there, and where will I get the data? If you get the answer, data requirements are not clear, reject the topic. I'm telling you this. Data requirements are not clear, reject the topic. There are thousands of topics. And if data is not available, just reject it. I'll tell you one example. One of my students, he was working in State Bank of India and executive MBA student. He wanted to do research on Basel norms. Like what is the state of compliance of Basel norm at different banks. Then he came to me, I want to do research. I said, don't do this research because you will never get the data. Banks will never share the information with you. He said, no. I'm working for State Bank of India. I've got State Bank of India data. And we have got a WhatsApp group, and I've got similar position people in all the banks. So they will give me data. And I said, then if you're saying this, you do this. Then afterwards, they come back, sir, data nahi mil raha hai. Bola, kyun? मेरी खुद के बैंक ने मेरे को डेटा दिया नहीं, तो मेरे दोस्त लोग बोलते थे खुद के बैंक ने दिया तो मैं कैसे तेरे को डेटा दूंगा. So if data is not available, dump that topic. It is not like Valentine's Day, the love में पड़ जाते हैं लोग topic से, तो बोलते नहीं यही लड़का या यही लड़की. That doesn't work in research. कि ये मन में जो पहले टॉपिक आ गया वही टॉपिक में मैं रिसर्च करूंगा. That doesn't work in research. It's look at the data availability and accordingly you do that. Data availability, and anybody who says that data is not available in finance, I said, why did you take up a topic when so much data is available? All your balance sheet data is available for 20 years for 2 lakh companies. And why did you take up a topic where data is not available?
Thanks a lot, sir, for your practical direction. One of the participants is saying, actually, you have taken all the topics very practical, and how the research can be done and in what direction it can be done. You discuss it in detail how the data can be collected, what the method for that. And I believe participants are more curious to meet you in person.
Yes. I will be very happy. And I'll share my number, I'll share my email ID also on the PPT. And you can always contact me. And I'm happy to share whatever little I know. because I myself struggled, because all these questions were my questions. Then I struggled with not availability. Then many of these things, but I'm talking today practically, I've learned it the hard way for many years.
Yeah, sir. So that's why वो बोलते हैं ना, घायल की गति घायल जाने.
बराबर है.
ऐसा हो गया.
So I'm more than willing to help people who are struggling because I also struggled. So let me be honest
because
about
you
it.
face that situation, so
Yes,
that's why
yes.
you can
And you meet all sort of
pain of
people who
the-
discourage you, all sort of people, sir, ये जो कर रहा है वो गलत है, ऐसे नहीं चलता है. And we at that time, we are young and we feel, really, they are senior people, so they may know better. Then after many years, you come to know, वो marketing वाले का क्यों सुना तूने? वो लोग का अलग दुनिया है, अपना अलग दुनिया है.
Very true, sir. Very true. So we are very fortunate that we heard you today on this topic. This is very crucial topic nowadays, and all the CAs are keen to do PhD.
Yes, yes. And we should do PhD. We should present articles in newspapers. We should make our voices heard. We should take part in conferences, because today what is happening, one-sided things are happening. And somebody calls himself, the finance consultant. He doesn't know the difference between current asset and non-current asset. How can you not know? I don't need to know. I'm a finance. Finance मतलब क्या होता है? Economics से आया है वो. तो हम लोग कहाँ जाएंगे? Economics वाला अपने आप को finance बोलेगा तो.
सर एक्चुअली मुझे लगता है ना कि पीएचडी करने का पर्पस सिर्फ ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि नेम के आगे डॉक्टर लगना है.
बराबर है.
It is changing our thought process and way of thinking and way of seeing any event or any particular subject.
Correct.
पूरा thought process change हो जाता है यदि हम इस फील्ड में जाते हैं तो कि
I'll
हम
just give
किसी
you
भी
one.
इवेंट को कैसे चेक करते हैं.
I'll just give you one. I'll tell you one. Because our college, we have a PhD program. It's highly competitive, and we have some top level people coming and doing PhD. People with 20 years experience in the industry, they come, and again people will question you in your family also. अरे बस हो गया अभी यार, बहुत पढ़ लिए और अभी क्या पढ़ना है और क्या मिलने वाला है ज्यादा तुम लोग उसमें मिल रहा है. So even everybody had that question. So I asked him, like, don't you have this question in your mind? बोले एक बहुत बड़ा फर्क मेरे को दिखा when doing PhD. बोलते हम लोग कॉर्पोरेट में काम करते हैं ना, entire thing is focused on how to do it. ये प्रोजेक्ट कैसे होगा, ये प्रॉब्लम कैसे सॉल्व होगा, कोई पूछता नहीं why we are doing it. PhD में आके why हमेशा हर जगह पे why होता है. Why you took that variable, why you did this, why you adopted this technique, why did you adopt that model. So PhD is all about why. Corporate is all about how.
कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में तो सर वैसा होता है ना कि करना है
बस
काम का है ही नहीं, बस करना है कैसे करना है, you have to do.
बस तो हम लोग कभी then how will we develop as a person कि हम लोग को पता है नहीं क्यों कर रहे हैं हम लोग
एक्चुअली सर. और इफ वी गेट द आंसर ऑफ व्हाई ना, हाउ अपने आप हो
जाता है. पर अपने को कॉर्पोरेट में अपने को टाइम कहाँ होता है, इतना प्रेशर होता है, 10 जगह से प्रेशर होता है, तो अपने को पहला काम सॉल्व करके आगे बढ़ने का रहता है. सो व्हाई का टाइम ही नहीं मिलता. सो दैट पर्सन एक्चुअली, इट इज नॉट माय इनसाइट, that person who's got 25 year experience in industry said मेरे को आके फायदा ये हो रहा है कि मैं हमेशा वाई पूछ रहा हूँ आजकल.
So nice of you, sir. So sir, on behalf of WIRC and on behalf of all the participants, I propose your hearty vote of thanks for such a simple answer of all the questions and to be friendly with all the participants. People are saying very much good comment in chat box for you. And
Thank
sir, one more question. You are going to institute daily or how they can meet you?
I'll share the number and email ID. So you check with me when I'm going, because I'm not going daily. Sometimes I'm work from home. So you can work out a time and we can work out a time and we can meet. Okay. And I can take you to the library and I can show you the e-resources. We have got all the journals in finance. And for back issues for 20 years and CMI prowess, I'll make you sit over there and you can see what data is available.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Thanks to all the participants for your patient hearing, because see, after time has passed already, all the participants are there. No one left. कि अभी सर और क्या एक नया टिप देने वाले हैं प्रैक्टिकल.
Yeah, हम लोग तो practical so that is what we'll do.
Yes, sir. So we look forward to call you in other seminar and other webinar further also.
Yes,
So on behalf of all, we propose highly vote of thanks and carry with a good round of applause.
Thank
sir.
you, thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you all the
Thank you, sir.
participants.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. मिश्रा जी बंद कर सकते हैं अभी। मिश्रा जी।
पिंकी मैडम बोलिए।
अरे विनय बंद कीजिए, हो गया, कंप्लीट हो गया।
हाँ मैम छोड़ दीजिए।